The examiner was infuriated to the point of laughter. You still dare to deny? You really think everyone is a fool? You have cheated in all 3 rounds of enrollment examinations, and with undeniable evidence, you still dare to say that you had obtained high marks but not been selected? Still dare to complain that Celestial Light Academy's assessment is unfair? If we were to recruit you, then it would really be unfair to the other examinees. The minute he completed his sentence, the crowd went into an uproar. Cheated? Bai Ruoqi cheated? No wonder a practitioner from a small country like her had not much innate talent, cultivation methods, or profound skills, but she was still among to be ranked in the top 20. I had suspected something was amiss long ago. But which part did she cheated in? I couldn't tell at all. Is this real? Although her results are indeed a little exaggerated, but to say she cheated, there must be evidence, and they cannot just anyhow frame a good person, right? The topic of cheating was simply too sensitive, and from that moment onwards, the looks on by Ruoqi had changed. As a practitioner, they were very particular about being just and upright as they pursued the extreme boundary of martial arts. For someone who deviated from the correct pathway and cheated was despised by everyone. Moreover, to cheat in the examinations would affect the interests of everyone else. In the midst of the noise, Huang Yueli didn't take part in it. Her lips curled up slightly, revealing a calm smile, but she didn't say anything. When Bai Ruoqi heard the examiner's words, it felt like a pail of ice-cold water showering down on her head, making her feel cold to the max from top to toe. Cheated in all 3 rounds of assessment. Undeniable evidence. The words kept reverberating around in her head, making her discomposed. Could it be that Celestial Light Academy had really found evidence of her cheating in the examinations? Was this possible? She had obviously been commended in the first round of assessment. From the first to the 3rd round of assessment, her name was in the ranking list, and if they had discovered that she cheated earlier, should they chase her out immediately? Why would they allow her to complete all 3 rounds of assessment? Bai Ruoqi thought it through, but she couldn't get an answer. The examiner stared at her through his icy cold eyes and continued speaking. The first round was to test your control of strength and technique. The most difficult part was how to distribute your strength in the most suitable way within a short period of time and with only one chance. Other than you, even though the others understood the complexity of the assessment content, they were unable to find the best-case solution immediately. When Bai Ruoqi heard this, she knew trouble was brewing. Celestial Light Academy's staff were really sharp-eyed and saw through her problem. Only thing was, this groundless evidence was not enough to convict her. Bai Ruoqi tried her best to stabilize herself as she found a reason to retort. Why do you feel that I cannot find the best-case solution? This thinking just suddenly popped into my mind, can't it? The examiner replied coldly, if you must insist on explaining in this way, it's fine. This round, we'll just consider your power of understanding as overwhelming, and you are inborn with an ability to analyze things. He hastily continued, then in the 2nd round of assessment, you're the first one to discover the relationship between the attack intensity and speed while passing through the steel cable. May I ask, how did you discover this regulation? I just saw through it, can't I? Bai Ruoqi hemmed and hawed as she replied. Oh, saw through it. Did you know that the steel cable was embedded with an array patterns of 4th tier and above so that it could activate such strong intensity attack power? What do you have to be able to see through it at one look? You can also listen on. Bai Ruoqi was overwhelmed by the consecutive questions as she turned dumbstruck. But she barely found a reason. Then I don't know. My instincts told me that there was a problem with the steel cable, and moreover my cultivation is really not there yet and I'm timid, so I don't dare to cross. I had never expected that the arrow's attack intensity would weakened, and I was only guessing. Her denial was simply shameless. Anyway, she had already stuck to her own statement that she didn't know anything at all. As for why she coincidentally got such high marks, that was akin to a blind cat catching dead mouse, pure luck. Luck was considered as part of a practitioner's ability, so who could say that one's ability was not enough? As for the accusation that she cheated, as long as she denied it all the way, then could that be considered as evidence? The examiner saw that she refused to admit her guilt, so the corners of his mouth started to twitch. It was not that they hadn't heard of cheating cases in other academies, but once they had been seen through, to have such thick skin and deny it without knowing how shameful the act was and to have no intention to repent was never heard of before. This was simply a marvel. The examiner continued, "There's also the third round of assessment. Don't tell me that you didn't know that 30 meters away from the center of the array was where the intensity of the pressure was at the weakest, with only 30% or so. The area of the array was obviously so big, but you had to walk to exactly 30 meters away from the center area. Don't tell me that was by chance as well. Isn't this just too coincidental?" When he said these, the crowd was shocked. What? So the pressure in the array's inner portion wasn't stronger? So the position that Bai Ruo-Chi sat at was where the intensity was at its lowest? No wonder. I had always felt that it was weird that why was she only at second stage first level, but she's able to persist even longer than so many second stage fifth level practitioners. So the truth is like this. This absolutely is cheating. It's obviously unfair that she had obtained such high marks. Bai Ruo-Chi was pressured by the condemned glares from the crowd and she felt exceptionally guilty, but she absolutely could not admit that she cheated. That was really a coincidence. What do you want me to say? What cheating? Were all guesses by yourself? The examiner said. Then could you explain why was it that everyone all sat by the boundary of the array and only you alone walked to the inner zone? Bai Ruo-Chi's guilty eyes floated around and suddenly fell onto Huang Yueli. Seeing Huang Yueli's expression filled with ridicule, with a seeming to laugh but not laugh look, she almost fainted. At the same time, an evil thought formed in her mind. She gritted her teeth as she hissed, "The array is so big, it's my freedom to sit anywhere I like. Is there any regulation that I cannot enter the inner cone? Moreover, I'm not the only one who didn't sit by the boundary of the array, there's also Bai Ruoli. Didn't she enter the center area as well? If you insist that I cheat, then she also cheated." The crowd's gaze all fell upon Huang Yueli. Speaking of that, the other young lady who was from South Yu Kingdom had even astonishing results than Bai Ruo-Chi. She had gotten first place unknowingly, and even easily crushed Song Yaru, that peerless talent. To have lost to an unknown young lass, just how many people were feeling unreconciled? How many people had swallowed this to the verge of throwing up blood? From the looks of it, since Bai Ruo-Chi had cheated, then Huang Yueli, who had even outstanding results than her, might have cheated as well. Otherwise, how could she be so heaven-defying? You can also listen on. Hearing Bai Ruo-Chi's obvious words to change the focus of attention, Huang Yueli's lips curled upwards as her smile turned even more enchanting. After breaking through to third stage realm, Huang Yueli's looks had somewhat upgraded. Even though there wasn't much changes from her previous look, but she had imperceptibly become much prettier. Even if she had to stand next to Song Yaru, the famous beauty in Sky Cloud City, she would have the upper hand. At this moment, her smile was delicate and attractive, as many young men were lost while looking at her. But this sweet smile, in Bai Ruo-Chi's eyes, was extremely terrifying. She unconsciously took a step back. What are you thinking of? What's there to smile about? I'm telling you, don't think just because your cultivation is much higher, then you will be able to threaten me. Huang Yueli smiled while shaking her head. That pair of clear eyes contained a glint of sympathy, as though she was looking at a retard. Your joke is really funny. Do I even need to cheat? My cultivation is originally the highest among this batch of examinees. Today before I advanced, I was already at second stage 9 level cultivation, so to obtain first place was expected. As for Trash, who had just entered the second stage like you, what right do you have to question me? Initially she was still all smiles as her tone was gentle and soft, but as she continued to the end of her words, her tone had obviously become severe. When she was completing her last sentence, the words she spat out even contained some traces of pressure from her profound energy. When her words were out, Bai Ruo-Chi was pressured until her blood was raging and her chest felt dull, as she almost spat out blood. This was the might that a superior had over a junior, and now that she was already a third stage third level practitioner, to deal with Bai Ruo-Chi, a second stage first level practitioner, was a breeze. She didn't even need to use any profound skill or personally strike out. Only just using the pressure was enough to make Bai Ruo-Chi seriously injured. This powerful presence slowly spread out and the surrounding new students were affected as well as they subconsciously took a few steps backwards. At the same time, their eyes were filled with shock. Several new students who had felt unreconciled earlier could not help but to acknowledge her power. That's right, she was now a third-stage practitioner. Her might had long exceeded theirs. No matter how far away or how insignificant her background was, she could absolutely crush them now. Under the absolute difference in power, to doubt the other party would only invite trouble for themselves. Great. You're worthy of being by Liu Feng's daughter. You really resemble some senses of his imposing attitude that year. A burst of laughter was heard from the back of the crowd. Following that, several elderly people walked up towards them from the back. The examiner raised his head as his expression changed and hurriedly welcomed them and prostrated to the ground. Principal Jiang, WH, why have you graced the occasion with your presence? The new students all went into a blank as they quickly looked at the elderly man, their excited faces filled with shock and delight. Principal Jiang. Could this be Celestial Light Academy's one and only original Principal Jiang Tuxin? Jiang Tuxin himself was a very powerful man and was an 8-stage realm practitioner. In the entire Sky Cloud City, he was considered as one of the top exponent. Moreover, his backing was Celestial Light Sect, and to be sent here to fully take charge of Celestial Light Academy, one of the most important properties in the sect, he was considered as someone with status and was deemed as a valuable person. To the new students who were present, Jiang Tuxin was absolutely a person who they need to look up to as he belonged to the legendary expert level. Normally, the Academy's daily affairs were handled by Vice Principal Ling, so Jiang Tuxin rarely showed his presence. No one had expected that on their first day of entering Celestial Light Academy, they would be able to meet Principal Jiang. You can also listen on. The new students were all extremely excited as they followed the examiner and prostrated onto the ground. Nice to meet you, Principal Jiang ******. Only Huang Yueli didn't follow suit, and as the crowd suddenly lowered their heights, her presence immediately stuck out. However, not only was Jiang Tuxin not angry, he actually laughed as his eyes were filled with admiration. Not bad at all. You're Bai Liu Feng's daughter? I met your mother that year, and that was when your parents had just got married. In a blink of an eye, you've already grown so big and you really resemble your mother. However, that temper resembles more to your father. Huang Yueli saw that there wasn't any hypocrisy hidden in his kindness and instantly generated some senses of liking for him. An elderly person with good moral standing and reputation like Principal Jiang was able to treat her with kindly and with such enthusiasm came naturally from her father's face, so Huang Yueli wasn't someone who didn't know better. She instantly cupped her hand in obeisance as she saluted to him. Nice to meet you, Principal Jiang. My father is indeed Bai Liu Feng. Great, that's really great. Jiang Tuxin's wrinkled face was filled with smiles. That year, I had personally taught your father, and he is one of the most talented practitioners that I had ever met. But unfortunately he refused to join our Celestial Light sect. Today, you have inherited your father's innate talent and also entered Celestial Light Academy, so this really made me feel extremely gratified. I heard that you had obtained first place in this round of enrollment examinations, and Vice Principal Ling had already given you the position of a core student. Additionally, I shall now give you 3 chances to choose any profound armament or treasures in the profound weapon chambers and any cultivation method in the first 3 levels of the scripture depository. So you must work hard. With your innate talent, when you join Celestial Light Academy, there are high hopes of you becoming one of the inner disciples. Don't disappoint me. When Huang Yueli heard this, she instantly felt disappointed. To have an opportunity to choose profound armaments or cultivation methods to her was equivalent to not gaining any advantages. In her previous life, she had obtained various cultivation methods, and those were definitely much higher leveled than the cultivation methods for core students to train. As for profound armaments, she herself could refine it. Just merely an academy's profound armament chambers was probably not much better than armaments which she could refine herself. It was better to give her spirit jades or high-leveled medicinal herbs, which was much practical. But she didn't express that out and politely replied, "Thank you, Principal Jiang, for your benevolence. I will do my best to pursue my cultivation." Principal Jiang was very satisfied with her attitude as he nodded his head. At this moment, the crowd went into another round of bustling. Even though Huang Yueli didn't thought much of the advantages that Jiang Tuxin gave to her, but in the eyes of the new students, this was a huge pie that had dropped out from the sky. This was a big opportunity that everyone would grab even in their dreams. The profound armament chambers was filled with profound armaments which were 4th tier and above. As for the treasures that filled the shelves, those were likely profound weapons which were 5th tier upper grade and above. Each piece of these profound armaments were extremely pricey, and even as core students, they would need to accumulate masses of star currency before they could enter and exchange for one piece, so very few people was able to obtain 2 pieces and above. As for Celestial Light Academy's cultivation methods, it was even more famous. Ordinary students could only enter the first level of the scripture depository, while core students could enter the second level. But Principal Jiang had directly allowed Huang Yueli to casually enter the third level to pick any cultivation method she wished. What concept was that? The scripture depository was filled with earth-tier medium-grade profound skills and cultivation method. If one could choose something which was suitable for their use, just learning a few moves would enable that person to move horizontally in Celestial Light Academy. You can also listen on. Everyone's eyes were filled with envy as they looked upon Huang Yueli. When Bai Ruoqi saw what was happening and heard Principal Jiang's praises and promised rewards, her heart felt especially sour. As Principal Jiang was preparing to leave, she hurriedly shot up like an arrow and blocked his passage. Principal Jiang. Jiang Tuxin paused momentarily as he frowned and looked at Bai Ruoqi. Who are you? Bai Ruoqi hastily replied, Principal Jiang, I'm also from South Yu Kingdom and my name is Bai Ruoqi. I'm Bai Ruoli's cousin. Bai Liu Feng is my uncle. Bai Ruoqi quickly clarified her status with the hope that since Principal Jiang gave that lass with such good treatment, praised her in front of everyone and rewarding her with profound armaments and cultivation methods, wasn't it all because of Bai Liu Feng? Then she was also Bai Liu Feng's niece. Although a niece wasn't as close as a biological daughter, but she was still considered as a close relative. She should more or less be able to gain some advantage. At the very least, he should be able to let her retain in Celestial Light Academy. However, when Jiang Tuxin heard her introduce herself, he didn't express an overjoyed look like what she had expected. Instead, his face sunk. An 8-stage practitioner's imposing manner was shockingly strong, and even if Jiang Tuxin didn't intentionally release his might, it still made Bai Ruoqi trembled. You are Bai Ruoqi? Yes, Bai Ruoqi somehow felt something was amiss. As expected, Jiang Tuxin snorted heavily as he spoke sternly. So you're that girl who cheated today's examinations. It had been several decades since anyone dared to cheat in Celestial Light Academy. How shameless are you? And to think that you're Bai Liu Feng's niece. With you as his niece, it has certainly brought him discredit. Jiang Tuxin's tone was extremely severe as he displayed his imposing manner. Just a few stern words had already shocked the examinees present as they all lowered their heads, not daring to breathe out loud. As for Bai Ruoqi, she was soaked entirely in her own sweat as she stood there blankly, totally immobile. How could this happen? Hadn't Principal Jiang just came over? How did he find out about her self-cheating? However, at this point of time, there wasn't any moment for her to think deeply as her legs gave way and she knelt down onto the ground crying out loud. Principal Jiang, I know I have done wrongly. I'm in the wrong, I shouldn't have cheated in the examination. It's because I really want to enroll into Celestial Light Academy and I'm really worried that I would make my uncle lose face. So I took the risk. Now I know I'm in the wrong, I beg Principal to give me another chance. As long as I can stay in Celestial Light Academy, I resolve to change and make a fresh new start and will never ever cheat again. Bai Ruoqi cried extremely sadly as her eyes turned red, displaying a remorseful look. All the people present were shocked as they stared with their wide eyes and started discussing in whispers. Heavens, Bai Ruoqi has admitted that she really cheated. Isn't that so? Earlier the evidence was already so obvious but she was denying it so badly. Now that Principal is here, she can no longer keep up with it. How can we retain such a person in Celestial Light Academy? Various ridicule and jeering came from all around, and Bai Ruoqi was both ashamed and furious as her face flushed into beetroot red. She couldn't wait to hide herself into a hole in the ground. This time, not only had she lost face, she had even thrown it into Sky Cloud City. Once the matter of cheating in examinations was leaked out, she would become the laughingstock among the entire Sky Cloud City's practitioners, never able to raise her head up high. You can also listen on. If it wasn't for the current situation, even if she was beaten to death, Bai Ruoqi would never admit that she cheated. But she was very clear that as long as she admitted her wrongdoing in front of Principal Jiang and expressed that she would repent and turn over a new leaf, then would she be able to gain Jiang Tuxin's sympathy and mercy to let her stay. Bai Ruoqi clenched her teeth as she tried her best to suppress the melancholy feeling and continued howling. Principal Jiang, please let me stay on account of my uncle's face? Surely you won't hope that my uncle would see his own niece being chased out of Celestial Light Academy when he returns? He will be so disappointed. Why would my father be disappointed? He would only be more than happy. A sweet young voice was heard laughing. You. Bai Ruoqi suddenly jerked her head upwards. Huang Yueli smiled indifferently. Second sister, please stop throwing our Bai family's reputation. What position does my father hold? If news of his niece cheating and still lingered around refusing to leave were to spread, that would really make him embarrass. Since you have the guts to do such a thing, then you should be able to take the consequences. What does acting pitiful do? That's absolutely right. Jiang Tuxin gave Huang Yueli a glance of admiration. Following that, he looked at Bai Ruoqi as his glare turned icy. Earlier when I arrived, I could still hear you trying to deny the allegations. But now that you've been exposed, you start to cry and act pitiful? I'd have never expected that Bai Liu Feng's lifelong illustrious name had almost been ruined by a shameless lass like you. Vice Principal Ling, according to school regulations, what is the punishment for cheating? Vice Principal Ling hurriedly walked over and said, according to school regulations, if officially enrolled students were to be caught cheating, they would be stripped of their entire cultivation and meridians deposed and driven out of the academy. If there are no unexpected events, then the person would never be able to cultivate for his entire lifetime. As this Bai Ruoqi is still not an official student, we can still barely let her keep her cultivation. After the punishment of 12 whips, she will be driven out of the academy. As for her cheating ways, I will inform all academies in South Sky region to keep record of her. Jiang Tuxin nodded and said, although the punishment is slightly lenient, but on account of Bai Liu Feng, we shall do it in this way. Quickly get our men to bring her away and not delay the new student's itinerary to tour the school. The examiner hastily replied and instructed someone to bring Bai Ruoqi away. Bai Ruoqi had wanted to struggle and defend herself a bit more, but Celestial Light Academy's law enforcement team were not South Yu Kingdom's golden-scaled guards. All of them had extraordinary skills and not someone who she could resist against. Bai Ruoqi's mouth was stuffed by someone from the back and her meridians were subdued in a few moves, rendering her immobile, and was taken away immediately. Not long after, Bai Ruoqi's blood-curdling screeches could be heard. Apparently, she had already been brought to suffer the whip punishment. Hearing that miserable shrieks, those new students all shuddered. The crowd had originally felt satisfied that Bai Ruoqi was punished for her cheating ways as they held smiles on their faces, but when they heard her blood-curdling screeches, all of them started to be terrified. Bai Ruoqi seemed to be the niece of some important person in Celestial Light Academy, but yet she was punished to such a miserable state. She was already being whipped as a punishment, and after that, her cheating record would be informed to all academies. To be turned away from Celestial Light Academy because of such a reason, which other academy would dare to take her in? Wouldn't Bai Ruoqi's future be all ruined? Terrifying, too terrifying. Moreover, earlier Principal Jiang had mentioned if an official student was caught cheating, that student would be stripped of his cultivation. You can also listen on. Celestial Light Academy's regulations were so strict, and anyone who dared to violate the school regulations would pay a heavy price for it. All the new students became aware of the dangers, and the joy from being recruited earlier had all disappeared. In replacement, they revered Celestial Light Academy. Huang Yueli noticed the crowd's reaction and smiled while lost in thought. This Principal Jiang was proven to be a famed practitioner. After managing Celestial Light Academy for so many years, the method he took was really not ordinary. Not only had he dealt with Bai Ruo Qi, he also killed the chicken to warn the monkeys. All of these new students were all held in high respects before they entered the school, as their eyes were on the top of them heads. But at this moment, they had turned into obedient children. After Principal Jiang left, the examiner brought the new students to the inside of the academy. Following that, he got several older senior students to bring the new students to tour the academy. Celestial Light Academy's floor area was extremely big. Not only did it occupy an entire spiritual artery, the circumference of several hundred miles even had more than 10 individual training grounds and specialized closed-door cultivation rooms for students to cultivate. These closed-door cultivation rooms were built along the spiritual artery's core zone and accompanied with qi gathering array. The profound qi within were abundant, so it took only half the effort while cultivating. Even Huang Yueli took interest in this. Ever since she was reborn, she didn't had any chance to cultivate in such a high-class closed-door cultivation room, and just taking in those sparse profound qi from the air, even if she had set up a qi gathering array, the effect really made one wanted to cry. A senior brother with the surname Lin introduced, everyone have seen these closed-door cultivation rooms on the spiritual artery. The profound qi in abundant and the cultivation effects are extremely good. But if you want to enter the closed-door cultivation room, you will need to pay a large amount of star currency. So temporarily you will not get the chance. Star currency? What's that? Someone asked immediately. Senior brother Lin patiently explained, star currency is the commonly used currency in Celestial Light Academy. There are many facilities in the academy which requires payment by star currency. For example, to enter the closed-door cultivation rooms, or Sutra Depository to rent cultivation methods or profound skills manuals. But for yearly promotion, there would be a minimum target of star currency before you can be promoted. There are many ways to obtain star currency. To explain simply, it is distributed based on everyone's contributions, big or small, and the marks you obtain. Take this round's enrollment examinations for example. Everyone would have obtained star currency as a reward. First place will get 100 coins, second place would get 99 coins, progressively decreasing in succession, and the 100th place would get 1 star currency. So in future, when you take part in the annual examinations or various training, if you obtain the top few rankings, you will get a reward. But everyone must cherish this, as within this year, this entrance examinations reward is your biggest fortune. Very few students would have star currency in their accounts within the first year, so you must cherish the fortune in your own hand. Upon hearing that, the new students became anxious. It seemed that the stiff competition within Celestial Light Academy was not only a rumor. Whatever they do, they will need star currencies, but yet they only had that few on hand. Especially those new students whose ranking were far back, their faces held a look of despair. Heavens! They only had that pitiful amount of star currency on hand, so what could they do with it? Only Huang Yueli had an indifferent look as she asked, Senior brother Lin, how much star currency do we need to rent one of the closed-door cultivation rooms on this spiritual artery? Can I trouble you to tell us more? Senior brother Lin said, every closed-door cultivation room's fees are different. The more higher up the room, the more expensive it will get. You can also listen on. It costs 1 star currency a day at the foot of the mountain. As for halfway up the mountain, the feed is 5 star currency a day. The rooms near the top of the mountain is 10 star currency a day. The best rooms on the top of the mountain costs 20 star currency a day. 4. So expensive. The new students' expressions turned extremely ugly as sweat started to form on their foreheads. Closed-door cultivation rooms outside the academy were calculated on a monthly basis. Celestial Light Academy's rooms were actually based on day rate. Moreover, the pricing was exorbitant. Even the worst closed cultivation rooms needed 1 star currency a day. Only heavens knew that the last student to be recruited only had just 1 star currency. Moreover, from senior brother Lin's meaning, he had to use that 1 star currency to live throughout this year and his entire fortune. could merely cultivate for one day in the worst closed-door cultivation room? Even if it was first place with 100-star currency, she could only cultivate for 3 months at the foot of the mountain. 3 months was not enough for an entire year. Moreover, there were plenty of places at Celestial Light Academy which required spending, so surely it cannot be used entirely to pay for the rental of the closed-door cultivation rooms, right? Upon hearing Senior Brother Lin's introduction, the pressure on the new students grew larger. They had thought that once they entered Celestial Light Academy, they would easily obtain a huge amount of resources, so they had thought too much. There were resources everywhere, and in fact, it had been even better than what they had imagined. But no matter which one it was, they had to pay a price to exchange for it. Only the really strong people had the resources to become even stronger. The weak ones would be eliminated very soon. Senior Brother Lin looked at the new students' green and white faces, and the corners of the lips curled upwards into a smile. He was also once a newcomer and naturally knew what they were thinking about now. To take a hit was definite, but who asked them to be newcomers? They had to go through their own struggles to prove their worth before they could stand strong in the academy. Alright, the tour of the closed-door cultivation is now completed. So following this, we will now go to the rear mountain and take a look at the Sutra Depository. Wait a while, Senior Brother Lin. Senior Brother Lin paused in his tracks and upon turning back, discovered it was Huang Yueli. He replied in a friendly manner, "Junior sister, what's the matter?" Huang Yueli displayed outstanding performance in the new students' enrollment examinations, and at her young age, she became a third-stage practitioner. So it was imaginable that her future had boundless prospects, so Senior Brother Lin's attitude towards her was different from the others. Huang Yueli said, "I won't be following you all to tour the other grounds of the academy. I intend to stay here and go into closed-door cultivation, so I'd like to ask if I can pay the star currency now directly and rent the closed-door cultivation room." Senior Brother Lin went into an obvious blank. Why, yes you can, but, you really want to rent the closed-door cultivation room? Senior Brother Lin's expression was very interesting, and this was the first time he had ever heard any new students would rent a closed-door cultivation room on their first day. Even if it was new student who had gotten first place, that 100-star currency was not enough to rave about. Huang Yueli nodded, "That's right, I had broken through to the first stage realm in the third round of assessment. Perhaps it was due to the examination, my breakthrough was forced and my base is not stable, so I'd like to immediately go into closed-door cultivation to stabilize myself." "I see." Senior Brother Lin nodded in understanding. To break through to third stage realm was a huge matter to all core students, and they indeed needed to go into closed-door cultivation room for some time. As long as there's empty rooms, then you will be able to rent it. I'll go help you ask, so which position do you want to rent? And how many days? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli thought for a moment and replied, Then I'll take the mountain top's best closed-door cultivation room, and for now, I'll rent 3 days for now." Senior Brother Lin blinked and thought that he had heard wrongly. What did you just say? Can you repeat yourself once again?" Huang Yueli repeated herself, "I want the closed-door cultivation room on the top of the mountain, 1 day 20-star currency that type, and I'll rent 3 days first." Senior Brother Lin almost fell onto the ground with shock, and after a moment, his senses returned to him. Why? You say you want to rent the 20-star currency a day's closed-door cultivation room?" Huang Yueli was rather speechless as she replied, "Yes, that's right. It's the one which costs 20-star currency." "Senior brother, your hearing isn't too good. Have you suffered some injury previously? Are you kidding me? You're a new student and you want to rent the room that costs 20-star currency a day." Huang Yueli heard him continuously repeating and emphasizing, and his senses turned dull as though he had not noticed what she was saying at all, which left her with black lines all over the top of her head. "I say, Senior Brother Lin. I'm not kidding and you didn't hear wrongly. Can you please help me to check if there are still available rooms on the mountain top?" "Hey, wake up." Brother Lin had just managed to calm himself down and he stared at her eyes before giving his advice. "Junior sister, I advise you not to rent such an expensive room. 20-star currency a day and you only have a total of 100-star currency. Don't think 100 star currency is a lot. Everything in the academy costs star currency, and moreover star currency is extremely, 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 extremely hard to earn. What's more, you are just going to rent 3 days. What can you do in those 3 days? It's a complete waste of money. Even those top 10 core students who had joined the academy long ago don't spend star currencies in the way you do. About this, I have my own plans, senior brother Lin persuaded her earnestly. Huang Yueli replied, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Senior brother Lin, I know you mean well, but I've already thought through it clearly. I need that mountain tops closed door cultivation room, 3 days duration. If you're not able to help me rent, then I'll go find someone else to ask. Senior brother Lin sized her up for half a day, and seeing her composed expression bearing a I've decided look, he sighed, all right, since you insist on not listening to my advice. Sigh. He heaved another long sigh as that glance seemed like he felt resentful towards her for failing to meet his expectations, as though he had been looking at a wastrel from head to toe. The other new students looked like they had just met a ghost. What's called a tycoon? This was it. Other people's annual income was just 1 star currency, and she had directly rented a 20 currency per day closed-door cultivation room without batting an eyelid. Once the 3 days was up, 60 star currency would disappear. This was more than half of her fortune. This talented young lass from South Sky Region's innate talent was rather high, but did she know how to calculate? Where do you find a person who would do things in such a manner? Your room rental is done, mountain top room number 1. 3 days duration, you can go now. Thank you, senior brother Lin, see you next time. No matter what thinking other people had, Huang Yueli kept an indifferent face as she received the token that senior brother Lin passed to her. She turned around and headed towards the mountain top. You can also listen on. The minute the closed-door cultivation room door was opened, Huang Yueli was both overjoyed and surprised. Celestial Light Academy was really worthy of the number 1 academy in the South Sky region. The cultivation terms was indeed not ordinary. From the foot of the mountain to the top, she felt that the abundant profound energy along this spiritual artery was at least a 4th-grade spiritual artery. As for the mountain top's closed-door cultivation room, it gathered a large amount of profound energy from heaven and earth, and there was an array which could regulate the profound energy's attributes and intensity. 20 star currencies were really well spent. Huang Yueli wasn't too worried about not having enough star currency to earn. After all, a skillful armament master didn't have to worry about that at all. She activated the array, sat down cross-legged, and started her cultivation. Due to the forced advancement, the spiritual body gathered in her body wasn't very stable, and her meridians were slightly damaged. This sort of internal injury would normally require at least a month to completely recover. But with this closed-door cultivation room, she would be able to repair all the hidden illness in her body within 3 days. The only thing to regret was that she had attempted several times to continue advancing, but every single time she was on the verge of 3rd stage 4th level, she would meet a bottleneck and stop. It seemed that if she didn't gather all the medicinal herbs recorded on 9 Phoenix transformation, then she can forget about advancing easily. 3 days passed by in a flash. Huang Yueli stretched her body as she stood up, and at the same thing continued to ponder. These 3 days of closed-door cultivation effect wasn't too bad at all, and in future, she could come frequently to cultivate. She also heard that she could rent high-class refinery using star currency, so it would definitely be of use in future. Just from this, the places which used star currency was quite a lot. But how do they earn star currency? She thought about this on the way while walking, and as she was leaving the room, someone called out to her. Junior Sister Bai, you have a few visitors, and they had been here since 3 days ago. Do you want to meet them? Visitors? Before the senior sister could reply, someone called out from the back. Bai Ruoli. It's really you. Huang Yueli turned back and saw a young lady dressed in light purple skirt pouncing towards her. Younger sister Li, I'm Su Qingyu. We haven't met for several years already. I heard the others say the new student who got 1st place is Bai Ruoli from South Yu Kingdom, and I thought I was dreaming. How did you? Weren't you not able to cultivate in the past? How did you become so incredible so suddenly? Huang Yueli went into a blank and quickly sought out this person from her memories. This Su Qingyu was a daughter of a reputable family from the neighboring South Ming Kingdom, and when she was young, she had followed her father to Valiant Martial Manor as a guest and played often with the original Bai Ruoli. Her innate talent was of 5th grade lower, but she was very easygoing. Even after Bai Liu Feng had disappeared, she would still drop by frequently to play with Bai Ruoli. But ever since she had enrolled into Celestial Light Academy 2 years ago, she had lost contact with Bai Ruoli. Huang Yueli revealed a smile. Elder sister Su, it's actually you. I miss you too. As for my cultivation matters, that's a long story. She had a fond liking towards Su Qingyu. After all, with such an innate talent but still retaining such nice personality wasn't commonly seen. Huang Yueli and Su Qingyu started reminiscing about old times. When the both of them were talking halfway, the senior sister manager suddenly ran in. Junior sister Bai, your number 1 place is really a hot potato. You've just came out from closed-door cultivation and someone had already sent you a battle invitation to fight. Battle invitation? Huang Yueli blinked her eyes as she felt slightly lost. Su Qingyue's expression, on the other hand, changed. You can also listen on. What battle invitation? Huang Yueli asked. Before the senior sister could reply, Su Qingyu had butted into the conversation and hastily said, Younger sister Li, don't casually agree to these fight. Those people who sent you these battle invitations all harbor ill intentions. Oh, what do you mean? Su Qingyu explained, you just arrived at Celestial Light Academy so you don't know. This sort of battle invitations are official fights and will be openly held at the Academy's martial arts stage. Moreover, each individual battle uses star currency for betting purpose. Each bet requires at least 10 star currency. You also know that star currency is hard to get right? Battles are one of the fastest way to earn star currencies. Most new students in the top few places would get star currencies as a reward in the entrance examinations when they just entered the school. So some shameless senior students would take advantage that the new students don't know what's going on and will send you a battle invitation when you just entered the school. The top few new students would normally feel that they are the most outstanding among all the new students, so to go against the senior students would not be a problem. Once they get heated up, they will agree to the battle. In actual fact, those students who had stayed in the academy for 2 years or not, even if their innate talent isn't very high, but their power are much higher than the new students by several times. So new students had never won before. Hearing Su Qingyue's explanation, Huang Yueli finally understood. This meant they were trying to take advantage of the new students. Honestly speaking, she had seen quite a number of such scums in her previous life, and there were quite a number of such disciples in Mythical Flame Palace. Actually, it looked like these people had gained advantage, but since they only dared to challenge those who were weaker than them, this was a very serious psychological damage and it would affect one's initiative, so it would be difficult to have much achievements in future. Huang Yueli replied, now this is interesting. So Celestial Light Academy has such a tradition. Sister Qingyu, quickly tell me what are the regulations during the battle? There's a lot. All the Celestial Light Academy's students would have a uniformed ranking at the martial arts stage. If one's ranks was lower than those higher-ranked people, the opponent cannot reject the battle. But if those higher-ranked ones wishes to challenge those lower-ranked ones, then the latter can reject the battle. Moreover, the bet is 10 times of the original amount. Huang Yueli's eyes shone and cried out in surprise, eh? There's such a good thing. In that case, if I were to bet 10 star currency, then the person who sends me the battle invitation would have to bet 100 star currency. Then if I were to win, 100 star currency would belong to me. Wow, this star currency is so easy to earn. Su Qingyu had thought her earlier words had frightened Huang Yueli, but who knew she would be excited to such a state? Su Qingyu was dumbfounded, and after a moment, she responded, I saw, younger sister Li. Did you hear what I said earlier? The potential between new and old students is not comparable. Huang Yueli laughed, that may not be necessary. Whether it's comparable or not, we still will have to see one's potential. Quickly tell me, is it possible that when they invite me for each battle, I will be able to bet at least 100 star currency? Right, That's correct, but Huang Yueli cried out a wow and continued, that's great. Senior Sister Manager, I'll accept this battle invitation. Can you help me to check when will the battle held? Younger Sister Li, why, you're so muddle-headed. Su Qingyu almost jumped up. I already told you that no new student had ever won the old ones. Why? You actually accepted the battle so easily. You can also listen on. Even the senior sister was shocked as she speechlessly shook her head. Junior Sister Bai, don't be so rash. Junior Sister Su is right. Those older students have mastered their cultivation methods and profound skills after so long at Celestial Light Academy, and it's not at a level that you new students could imagine. Although you are ranked first among the new students and is already at 3rd stage realm, but Celestial Light Academy had plentiful of 3rd stage realm practitioners. The top 10 core students are mostly 4th stage realm practitioners. You're not comparable to them in any way. Huang Yueli smiled. Senior sister, I appreciate your kind-heartedness. But those top 10 core students all want their face, so why would they come challenge a new student like me? Don't know, I know my baseline. In actual fact, even if it was the top 10 core students, she wasn't afraid at all. When she was in 2nd stage realm, she had easily defeated the 4th stage realm Imperial Tutor. Now that she had successfully advanced to 3rd stage realm, those practitioner below 4th stage realm 9 level were definitely not her opponent. But in order not to scare the manager senior sister, she had to be conservative. Despite manager senior sister and Su Qingyue's repetitive persuasions, they were not able to change her mind, so they helplessly watched her accept the battle invitation. This, you don't even want to take a look and just accepted it. What's the point? Seeing Su Qingyue's disapproving expression, Huang Yueli opened the battle invitation. Yi Mingshuang, 3rd stage realm 2nd level, core student, martial arts stage ranking, 69. There's not much content on this battle invitation. Huang Yueli didn't think much of it as she read on, seeing that Su Qingyue's face had already turned petrified. Elder Sister Su, what happened to you? Su Qingyu was already showing an expression which looked like she was about to cry. Even Yi Mingshuang came to challenge you, and why, you actually accepted the battle invitation. Do you know the concept of what rank 69 in the martial arts stage was? For an ordinary 3rd stage 2nd level practitioner to rank top 100 was already a difficult feat. Moreover, she's ranked in top 70. She's just in the top 70s. Elder Sister Su, you're too anxious. No need to worry. It's 7 days to the battle, and by then, just come to the martial arts stage and watch me, that will do. Huang Yueli smiled indifferently. You tilde. Ari. Su Qingyu wasn't able to convince her, so she became even more anxious. But newbies who had just enrolled into Celestial Light Academy were always that blindly confident, and right after they've eaten a major disadvantage, then would the fact sink in. After she had been utterly defeated during the battle, she believed that Huang Yueli would then quieten down. The news that Huang Yueli had accepted Yi Mingshuang's battle was soon widely spreaded in Celestial Light Academy. It was a closely watched yearly affair whenever battle invitations were sent out to the new students. No one would ever doubt that the older students would not win. But some new students were more prudent and were not willing to accept the battle invitation, so they were not able to gain any advantages. Now that Huang Yueli had proactively accepted Yi Mingshuang's battle invitation, it meant that this year's number 1 student indeed had some potential but was simple-minded and rash. In other words, there were advantages to be gained. For a moment, the news made many students' hearts stir. On the same afternoon, Huang Yueli received her 2nd battle invitation. Hu Jingyaro, 3rd stage realm 3rd level, core student. Martial arts stage ranking, 64. Yi, your cultivation is much higher than that Yi something, and your ranking seems to be slightly higher. Huang Yueli held the battle invitation in her hands as she commented lazily. You can also listen on. Hu Jingyaro was a tanned youth, around 20 years old. He narrowed his eyes and said, that's right, my potential is much higher than Yi Mingshuang, but the overall performance isn't too different. Do you dare to accept my battle invitation? Huang Yueli was beaming as she replied, Amen, I accept. Remember to prepare your star currency. Cuckoo, don't you worry about it. I think you're the one who should prepare your star currency. Hu Jingyaro stared at the delicate fair face and her faint smile and was captivated momentarily by her looks as he pondered silently. Could this top student be an idiot? He and Yi Mingshuang were not ordinary people. Among the core students, they were rather famous. Truth be told, for the first time in several decades, Huang Yueli had been the first one to enroll into the school as a core student, so ordinary students really didn't dare to challenge her. Those who did were naturally not common people. Heavens knew how she was able to accept these battle invitations so indifferently. Who did she think she was? No matter what, she's just a new student who had just entered the third stage realm. To break through on a last-minute basis, her base was not stabilized, and yet she was already thinking of exchanging blows with those core students who had entered third stage realm long ago. Hu Jingyaro silently shook his head but said nothing at all. In actual fact, based on his cultivation and potential, he felt that it was beyond his dignity to take part in matters such as taking advantage of new students. If it wasn't for someone who had promised him some other benefits, he wouldn't even be standing here. But since he was already here, he wouldn't show any mercy. He would treat this as a lesson for the new student. To let her know how deep the water ran in the Celestial Light Academy, Hu Jingyaro left behind his battle invitation, passed it to her and left. Who knew, right after he took one step, he was called out by Huang Yueli. Oh right, that. Senior brother Hu, wait a moment. Hu Jingyaro suddenly turned around. Why? You regret it already? Since you've accepted this battle invitation, then the martial arts stage have already taken in this case, so there's no chance for regret. Huang Yueli smiled as she showed a set of tidy white teeth. That's not it, senior brother Hu, you're mistaken. I just want to ask you if you happen to know if there's anyone else who wants to challenge me. Please pass the message around and tell them to go ahead. No matter how many of you come, I will accept all the battle invitations. Hu Jingyaro stood in blank momentarily, and following that his pupils dilated as though he had just seen a ghost. Where on heavens would you find such a ridiculous matter? This lass actually proactively asked other people to come challenge her. What was wrong with her? Had water seeped into her brain? If she were to accept so many people's challenges, and to fight continuously, no matter how strong she was, she would not be able to take part in a cartwheel battle, right? Moreover, as a new student, if she wasn't able to win even one single round, if she accepted so many battles, was she prepared to lose all her fortune? She really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Hu Jingyaro snorted. Since junior sister you're so confident, I'd naturally inform the others. Then I'll depend on your senior brother. Have a good trip. Huang Yueli waved. Hu Jingyaro almost spat out a mouthful of blood as he clutched his chest and walked away looking melancholy. After Hu Jingyaro left, he spread what Huang Yueli had said, and indeed, the entire Celestial Light Academy swarmed up a huge wave. Everyone was now saying that the top new student didn't have any self-knowledge and was simply looking for death. Those who were looking to gain some advantages were overjoyed, and very quickly, Huang Yueli received yet another 2 battle invitations. You can also listen on. Yi Mingshuang, Hu Jingyaro, and 2 more new battle invitations. There was a total of 4. Huang Yueli was waiting to receive even more battle invitations, but surprisingly after she received these 4 invites, she no longer received any new battle invitations. She was feeling strange when Su Qingyu came looking for her again. Su Qingyu had an angry expression, and as she entered the door, she furiously screamed, "Younger sister Li, why can't you take in advices, and you actually accepted so many battle invitation? Don't you know that you've been tricked by others?" Tricked? What do you mean? Huang Yueli displayed a lost look. Su Qingyu was utterly discomfited as she continued, "It's all because of that what Li Shuai. To think she's also from South Yu Kingdom like you. How can she trick you like that? I tell you, those top experts like Yi Mingshuang and Hu Jingyaro are all reputable people in the academy, so why would they suddenly challenge new students out of the blue? It's all because of Li Shuai's instigation." Huang Yueli stared blankly momentarily, but she started smiling at the next moment. I really can't tell that Li Shuai in Celestial Light Academy still had some sort of influence. Su Qingyu retorted, smile, 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 you can still smile. I heard that you and Li Shuer had some feud in South Yu Kingdom. You are. Don't you know she's the beloved student of the great armament master, Master Tang, and it's rumored that she already at the level of a first-rank armament master. Do you know how many core students are rushing to get into her good books? Now that you've offended her, do you think you will have any good days to spend in the academy? Huang Yueli smiled as she shook her head and replied, only a first-rank armament master. Why are all the current practitioners all so short-sighted? You. Sigh, what do you know? For practitioners like us who come from small countries, we are already not looked upon by those students whose backgrounds are from the major families in Sky Cloud City. Now that you have obtained first place, the number of you who want to see you fall, and with Li Shuer pushing the waves and adding to the billows, do you think you can easily pass this round? By the day of the battle, losing star currency is a small matter. If you're seriously injured, it will affect your future cultivation and you'd be in deep trouble. Such a pity you're so rash and had already accepted the battle invitations, so even if you want to change your mind, it's too late already. So Qingyu was really anxious as her eyes had turned red. There were many practitioners who came from small countries in Celestial Light Academy and they had always been bullied. So they had silently formed their own group and Huang Yueli to them was one of their people. Their small country team finally had a top new student with endless future and she really didn't want to see that Huang Yueli had just joined the school and already beaten until she wasn't able to raise her head up. Huang Yueli didn't know how to comfort her and could only show her the truth when that day was over. She thought about it and said, all right elder sister Su, no matter what you say, I've already accepted the battle invitations. So even if you're worried, there's no point anymore. Right, I want to ask you something. Do you know why is it that after I've accepted 4 battle invitations, no one else continued to give me any invitations? Is there a regulation in school that each person could only accept 4 battle invitations? Su Qingyu rolled her eyes and said, how could that be possible? There is no limit to how many battle invitations one can accept. But you only have a total of 40 star currency and you have to bet 10 star currency for each round. Now that you're penniless, naturally no one would be able to send you any battle invitations. Saying that, she showed a relieved expression. Luckily you had already spent 60 star currency on your first day. Otherwise if it were all spent here, you'd have made a huge loss. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli just understood the whole situation was because she was too poor. In such a short time, her star currency had been deducted to 0. Shortage of funding was a big problem. No wonder everyone said star currency was very important. Just merely 4 rounds of battle for the opponent to bet 10 times of the amount would only earn her 400 star currency. It was a little too little. Huang Yueli pouted her lips and thought for a moment before her eyes shone. Right, elder sister Su, do you have any star currency? Lend me some. After 7 days, I'll return you double the amount. Su Qingyu looked at her alertly. You wish to borrow star currency? Huang Yueli nodded and replied, that's right. If you're worried that I won't return it, I can write an IOU and we can leave a record with the academy's teachers so I won't be able to deny it after. Su Qingyu replied, I'm not worried about you not returning but, at this moment, why do you need to borrow star currency for? Huang Yueli replied, about this. I was thinking if I had more star currency on hand, doesn't it mean that I can accept more battles? Su Qingyu had originally made a wild guess secretly but when she heard Huang Yueli say it out, it still felt like a lightning bolt striking her from the top, burning her to a crisp. She had never seen anyone who looked for death so earnestly. Borrowing money to battle. Did she felt that she hadn't lost badly enough yet? Felt that losing her entire fortune wasn't enough and was prepared to live with a life filled with debts? No way, impossible. I will never ever lend you this money. Su Qingyu hissed out the words and stomped away in rage. Huang Yueli was stunned, not expecting that she had so little confidence in her, but it was understandable. In Su Qingyu's eyes, she was that trash by Ruoli several years ago. For trash to be able to cultivate and become first place among the new students was already a marvel. How was it possible that she would be the first one in several decades to win the battle against the older students? This was not a marvel but a miracle. Sigh, I originally intended to help you and share the riches, but I didn't expect you to not reciprocate. Huang Yueli shook her head as she heaved a sigh of relief. But she knew where the problem laid, so there was a way to solve it. Huang Yueli quickly set up a booth in the academy and openly asked for a loan from the entire academy's teachers and student. Her loan rules were very simple: borrow 100 star currency to be returned 7 days later. By then, it would be calculated according to a 50% interest, which was to say, the owner would get 150 star currency. The interest rate was much higher than loan sharks. The entire academy was rocked by this news instantly. Top new student openly borrowing money in the academy. Moreover, to using such a method to loan money and such a high interest rate. Who would use such a method to loan money and to give such a high interest rate? Could it be a scam? However, there were some gutsy people who went ahead and tried. They found that Huang Yueli was very clear-cut when she dealt with the matter, and when she was loaning the money, she had gave our several IOUs which had been recorded by the academy. With the academy's teachers as a guarantor, it would ensure nothing was lost. Even if she wasn't able to return, the academy would pay for her first. With this, the amount of people who heard about this increased, and very quickly, Huang Yueli had consolidated 1,000 star currency. In actual fact, she really wanted to borrow a bit more, but the academy's side was rather restrictive and was only willing to guarantee her for a maximum of 1,000 star currency. This matter was even approved because of Principal Jiang's accord. Otherwise, if a new student wanted to earn 1,000 star currency, one would need at least 2 years, and the academy was worried that she was not able to pay back. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli's borrowing without restraint caused the crowd to raise suspicions. As a new student, why did she need so much star currency for? Li Shuer had intentionally walked one round at her booth and took out 100 star currency. Don't you want to borrow money? I'll loan it to you. But I advise you not to do any last-minute struggles. As a new student and you're loaning 1,000 star currency, even if you exchanged for a huge amount of cultivation methods or profound armaments, so what? Don't tell me you are able to learn it all within 7 days. Since you're going to lose, why bother to borrow so much money? So pitiful, your future in Celestial Light Academy would only result in taking up dangerous jobs such as medicine testing to repay your loan. Li Shuer displayed a bemoaning the state of universe and pitying the fate of mankind expression as she spoke earnestly. She attracted surrounding people who exclaimed that Li Shuer was so kind. Huang Yueli didn't accept her star currency as her lips curled upwards and said, "I'm so sorry, you're too late. My 1,000 star currency had been filled and now I'm not able to give out any more IOUs. Moreover, you seem to have mistaken something. I'm loaning star currency not because I'm intending to exchange cultivation methods. Not exchanging for cultivation methods. Then what do you intend to do? Don't tell me you're intending to go to the mountain tops closed-door cultivation rooms to cultivate. That wouldn't require 1,000 star currency as well." Huang Yueli didn't reply her question. She stood up and turned towards the surrounding crowd. "Everyone, I know many of them will like to challenge me. But previously, as my star currency had been used up, so a lot of you were not able to send me battle invitations. Now that I have star currency, so," she paused momentarily as an invisible smile hung upon her lips. "So now everyone take the chance to send me your invites. No matter how many there are. I'll accept it all." Her tone was sweet, and when they heard it, it seemed a little soft, but at the moment the words were out, it felt like lightning had struck the ground, causing many of them to lose their senses. "Yo! You are borrowing money just because you want to continue accepting battle invitations?" Li Shuer's eyes turned wide. Insane, Bai Ruoli is definitely insane. Heavens, she really don't want to live any longer. Is she thinking that she hasn't paid enough? Among the bustling discussions, Huang Yueli indifferently added, "But for those who are sending your battle invitations now, I will only bet at least 100 star currency. That is to say, those who intend to challenge me will at least need to bet 1,000 star currency." Li Shuer sneered when she heard what was said, "So that was what you were planning." You thought that once the bets had been raised to 1,000 star currency, no one would dare to send their battle invitations? Those core students who have been in the academy for more than 2 years all have 1,000 star currency. Just you wait. Huang Yueli innocently shrugged. Don't be mistaken. I only feel that it's too tiring to go battle after battle. Think about it, 10 coins 1 round, 1,000 coins means I need to accept 100 battles. It's very tiring, okay? I merely wanted to save some time. Just you continue to pretend. 7 days later, I'm gonna watch how you cry. Li Shuai sneered as she walked away. Due to the restriction of 1,000 star currency, the amount of people who sent Huang Yueli battle invitations had decreased by quite a lot. But those who had been coveting the fortune in her hands were still many, and eventually she managed to receive all 10 battle invitations. What's more, among the owners of the 10 invitations, they were all reputable experts in Celestial Light Academy, and were ranked top 30 in the martial arts stage. 7 days later. On the day of the battle before dawn, the martial arts stage was filled with people. Almost all of the students had received news and flocked over, although a new student accepting an old student's challenge was seen yearly, but for it to make such a huge commotion was totally unheard of. You can also listen on. Everyone wanted to witness the few battles with their own eyes. Since Huang Yueli talked big and used so much star currency to bet, did she really have that overbearing power, or could it be that her brain wasn't working well, thinking that she had merely gotten a first place in among the new students and thought she was really unequaled? Regarding this question, it was something that everyone wanted to find out. Besides that, someone had specially took in bets to see how many battles Huang Yueli could win. But the majority betted that Huang Yueli would not be able to win even one single round. It was rumored that the statistics which betted her total loss had reached 100 to 1. Before the battle, Su Qingyu knew that there was no going back and specially came to encourage her. A few students and myself who are from the small countries had all bet 100 lower grade spirit stones that you could at least win 1 round. Why? You have to buck up. All of us believe in you. When Huang Yueli heard this encouragement, she almost spat out blood. Just win 1 round was considered as believing in her. Do they need to look down on her that much? She took out the 20,000 medium-grade spirit stones that she had won during the entrance examinations and passed it to Su Qingyu. Elder sister Su, I need your help to go and help me bet that I will win all round. If you have any spare cash, go ahead and buy my total win. The rate is 100 to 1. Just betting 100 will win you 1,000. Nothing is as easy to earn as this. Too bad this self-organized betting booth by the students cannot bet star currency and only spirit stones, otherwise I will have struck it rich. Huang Yueli's eyes shone with brilliance. She had never thought that just one battle could earn her that much, and placing a bet would earn her another huge fortune. 20,000 medium-grade spirit stones would turn into 200,000 after today. Su Qingyu almost fainted. Why? You are really not afraid of losing all your fortune, owing so much money? Even if we sell you, it's not enough. Huang Yueli was speechless as she shook her head. Elder sister Su, don't worry. Do I look like an idiot to you? If it wasn't that I am 100% certain, I wouldn't have agreed to so many battles or even borrow star currency. Can you have some confidence in me? Su Qingyu stared at her for half a day before she nodded. All right, younger sister Li, I know you have your own ideas. Since you can become a 3rd stage realm practitioner from trash, perhaps you have some killer stint which I don't know about. We will go ahead and bet on your total win. If you can really win all the bets, in future, we will follow you around. Huang Yueli's eyes shone. She had long despised the servants whose innate talents were simply not enough in South Yu Kingdom, as she couldn't use them in much areas. If she was able to take in Su Qingyu's team of students, that would be an unexpected surprise. After all, they were at least 4th grade upper talents and above, and to be able to enter Celestial Light Academy, they weren't any common in any way. It was only because they were in unison, crowded out by those large families' disciples, so they were merely not able to obtain more resources. But under proper guidance, their potential would surely take a huge leap. Thinking of this, Her lips curled upwards as she smiled mysteriously. All right, just wait and see. On the day of the battle, Huang Yueli had been the same as always, waking up on time, finishing her breakfast before preparing to leave the room. Knock knock knock. A knocking sound was heard as Su Qingyu pushed open the door. Upon seeing her, her eyeballs grew wide. Younger sister Li, why are you still here? What time is it already? Huang Yueli replied, isn't it still very early? It's just 6:45. My first battle is at 7 o'clock. If I were to leave now, I should still be able to arrive on time. You can also listen on. Su Qingyu stared at her, expressing a look which like she was almost about to faint. 7 o'clock is your competition, and if you're still here. Do you know that many people said you're regretting accepting so many battles and you know that you're definitely going to lose, so, until now you don't dare to go to the martial arts day. I was worried something would happen to you, so I came over to look for you. These people are really senseless. Why bother about them? Anyway, as long as I arrive on time when the battle starts, it should be fine. Arrive on time will do. Haven't you took part in any official battles before? Everyone would normally arrive at the place beforehand. Don't tell me you don't need to do any preparation before the battle. What preparation? Huang Yueli asked curiously. There's just too many. For example, to adjust your mentality and mood, meditate and restore your condition and to get used to the battlegrounds, to defeat a few clowns and to earn easy money, do I need to do so many unnecessary stuff? Huang Yueli mumbled. What? Su Qingye thought that she must have heard wrongly. Those who challenged Huang Yueli were core students whose ranking were in the top 100, so which one of them were clowns? But before she could say anything, Huang Yueli had already stood up. Let's go, it's indeed not early anymore and I don't want to be late. After passing the main street, Huang Yueli realized that there wasn't a single soul on the street. Even the usually bustling public square were all empty. Where was everyone? Where had they all gone to? It was until they reached the martial arts stage's empty land outside the entrance before Huang Yueli realized what was going on. From the situation, the academy had been so empty because everyone was here to see her. These bunch of people, were they that bored? Please move aside quickly. Huang Yueli and Su Qingyu tried their best to squeeze inside, but they were not able to do so. There was simply too many people, and because everyone was afraid they would be too far away and not be able to see the situation inside, so they practically ignored the callings to move aside. Seeing that the official battle time was nearing, Huang Yueli realized that she was unable to get into the battlegrounds. What the heck? What situation is this? Elder sister Su, I realized that you're right. We really cannot be late for the battle, otherwise, we can't even get into the battlegrounds. I really regret not listening to you, Su Qingyu. She didn't meant it in this way, but from why did Huang Yueli's words make so much sense? At this point in time, Celestial Light Academy's main entrance was another scenario. Celestial Light Academy's principal Jiang Tuxin, Vice Principal Ling Wenbin and several high management and sixth-stage realm experts all appeared at the school's main door. Moreover, they had split into two lines, all of them bearing an anxious and terrified expression, peering towards the entrance. For so many important people to appear together at Celestial Light Academy was a rare scene, and even during the yearly school starting ceremony, many of the elders were not willing to grace the occasion. But now all of them were standing here waiting. If it hadn't been for everyone else who was at the martial arts stage watching Huang Yueli's battle, this scene might have already caused a huge commotion and crowd. As time went past slowly, the school main door was still empty. Ling Wenbin appeared anxious as he nudged himself towards Jiang Tuxin and whispered, Principal Jiang, why have young sect master not arrived yet? Didn't the messenger say he will arrive at 7 o'clock? Jiang Tuxin replied, You ask me, I ask who? What status does the young sect master hold? Whatever timing he wants to arrive, it's not something that we can question, isn't it? You can also listen on. When Ling Wenbin heard that, he felt that he had acted impudently and lowered his head. But after a while, the person whom they had been waiting for had not appeared, so he became flustered again. Principal Jiang, do you know why young sect master would come to Celestial Light Academy at this timing? Our sect had just ended the tournament with those few sects from West Sky region and is headed to our side now. Is it because we have done something wrong? It was no wonder that Vice Principal Ling would think in this way. Celestial Light Sect's people were all of high standing, and even when Jiang Tuxin was in the sect, he was merely an elder, and one of the weaker powers. Whereas in Celestial Light Academy, he was something whom no one dared to oppose. A person like young sect master would normally not come to Celestial Light Academy. Unless something major had happened. Jiang Tuxin frowned. When I met sect master last month, he commentated me saying that Celestial Light Academy was well managed. The disciples that we had picked recently had shown good performance, so it shouldn't be. Regarding this, Jiang Tuxin was totally baffled. But young sect master just as the both of them were conversing, a stroke of lightning flashed past the sky, and immediately following that, a powerful profound energy came sweeping from the direction of the school's main entrance. The few sixth-stage realm practitioners who were nearer to the entrance were not able to maintain their standing and almost fell due to this gush of profound energy. But Jiang Tuxin's eyes shone. Young sect master is here. A flying ship slowly descended from the sky and a few figures were seen. The man leading was a young man with an extremely handsome face. His features were delicate, resembling a perfect sculpture, with dark black eyes like ink, sharp but indifferent, and the imposing manner which he gave out was strong but cold. No one dared to look at him in the eye. If Huang Yueli were here, she would have a shock of her life. Because this man was indeed Li Moying. Jiang Tuxin hastily walked out to welcome him. Young sect master, you're finally here. I have been waiting for you for ages. The higher management behind Jiang Yusin followed closely. Our respect to young sect master. Li Moying glanced at them icily, and after some time, he nodded his head and said, dispense with formalities. Jiang Tuxin and Ling Wenbin crowded over and said affectionately, young sect master graces Celestial Light Academy with your presence. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling. Young sect master, do you want to go to our tea house to take a short rest, and after that I'll bring you around to tour the academy? There's no need. I still have some things to do, Li Moying replied unconcernedly. Yes. If young sect master needs us to do anything, just let us know. Jiang Tuxin and Ling Wenbin looked at his unfathomable handsome face as they held a terrified expression. Before Li Moying's arrival, they had only heard of this young sect master's reputation and knew that he was the #1 talent in Celestial Light Sect's history. Perhaps he was even able to challenge Mu Chengying's #1 place. So the entire sect held him in high respects, not daring to make him unhappy one bit. But Li Moying had always been in closed-door cultivation or out learning through experience, and the two principals seldom returned to the sect, so they had never seen him before. From the two principals' imagination, this legendary young sect master had enjoyed success since young, and most of his time was spent on cultivating. Moreover, he was so young, so his personality was likely arrogant and inexperienced, not knowing the ways of the way, so he was still tender in some ways. But upon meeting him today, they discovered that their guesses were wrong to the extreme. You can also listen on. Just based on that handsome, youthful, reversal of life face of Li Moying's could show that he was indeed very young. But the imposing manner and extremely strong power that he gave off made anyone unable to imagine that he was only 20 years old. Just standing at that spot, the profound energy pressure that was coming from him was at an unexcelled position which could repress all the top exponents there, making them suffocate as though their breathing would stop anytime and break out into cold sweat. It was even more pressurizing than meeting with the sect master himself. Even Jiang Tuxin, whose cultivation was at 8th-stage realm, which was higher than his, was not spared. It was until Jiang Tuxin and Ling Wenbin had escorted Li Moying away when the top exponents present were able to breathe, feeling that the heavy pressure weighing upon their chests had finally been shifted away. The few of them wiped the sweat off their foreheads coincidentally. Heavens, I almost knelt down earlier. It's so terrifying. That's young sect master. Isn't he only 20 years old? How could he be so terrifying? You haven't heard of this. I heard that young sect master had already broken through to 7th stage realm last month in the sec. What's more, at that moment, both heaven and earth moved weirdly as the ground trembled and mountains swayed, almost splitting the entire rear mountain into half. Are you telling the truth? Young sect master is already in 7th stage realm? He's only 20. A 20-year-old in 7th stage realm. How is this possible? How does he cultivate? I've heard about this too. This matter is absolutely true. Young sect master's future is boundless, and he will definitely be someone who will produce clouds with one turn of the hand and rain with another. His arrival at Celestial Light Academy is a huge opportunity for everyone here. If anyone happens to fall into young sect master's grace, then it would be a huge advantage in future, but if anyone were to offend him accidentally, let's all be careful these few days. Li Moying didn't bother about the people discussing behind his back. He walked neither swiftly nor slowly forward as his deep gaze kept surveying the school grounds. Even though Jiang Tuxin and the rest were talking, he listened absently, but his herd had already flown towards a black-bellied little fox. Speaking of that, he and his Leah had been separated for close to half a month. Logically speaking, Celestial Light Academy's enrollment examinations should have ended, and based on Leah's potential, admitting into the academy shouldn't be any suspense. He wondered if she saw him here, would she be surprised? Li Moying's expression was cold and he didn't say anything much, so this made Jiang Tuxin and the rest flustered, as all of them were on their toes not knowing if they did anything wrong. When Mo Yi saw this, he knew his master's heart had already flown away and didn't hold any interest in entertaining any of these idle people. So he had to make his appearance to help smooth things over as he started talking to Jiang Tuxin and the rest. Principal Jiang, why is the academy so quiet? What time is it now? Why is there no one in the academy at all? This is an exception. Jiang Tuxin was worried that there was a misunderstanding as he hurriedly explained, today something happened. The new top student received over 10 senior students' battle invitation at one go and placed huge stakes on it. Protector Mo, you had stayed in Celestial Light Academy previously as well, so you should know the difference between the new and senior students' abilities. This new student overestimated herself and had accepted so many battle invitations, so this situations is rarely seen. So many of our students had gone over to the martial arts stage to join in the fun. When Li Moying heard the few words top student, his brows moved slightly. You can also listen on. Mo Yi observed his expression and having immediately understood what his master was thinking about, he inquired immediately, since that the case, this new student must definitely be very powerful before she dares to do such a thing. What's her background? Jiang Tuxin quickly showed off his accomplishments. This young lady is called Bai Ruoli and she comes from a small country called South Yu Kingdom from South Sky region's border. Her background isn't very ordinary. Her father is Bai Liu Feng and he was the strongest core student in Celestial Light Academy's history. Even our old sect master had personally came over to Sky Cloud City and tried to take him in as a direct disciple. If her father had joined Celestial Light sect that year, then he would be Sect Master Murong's junior brother and she would be the same generation as young Sect Master. A pity that, Jiang Tuxin spoke frankly with assurance, couldn't wait to repeat the entire story of Bai Liu Feng during those years. It was an incredible achievement for Celestial Light Academy to have been able to nurture one Bai Liu Feng. But before he could complete his story, Li Moying had cut into his conversation. Where is the martial arts stage? Bring me over there. Jiang Yueli went into a blank. He had introduced Bai Liu Feng and his daughter's story so as to give himself credit and had never expected that Li Moying would want to go and see some battle. After all, no matter how exciting the battle was, wasn't it just between some third-stage realm practitioners? With Li Moying's potential and status, how was it possible that he would have any interest in such a childish and low-leveled battle? Li Moying's brows raised as he gazed towards him impatiently. Jiang Tuxin's heart thumped as he hurriedly responded, yes, I'll lead the way now. Young sect master, please follow me this way. Martial arts stage. Huang Yueli used a tremendous strength before she was able to squeeze herself through the crowd. Initially she didn't want to hurt the innocent crowd, but until the last moment, she had no choice but to use her profound energy to separate the crowd apart to make a path through. By the time she arrived, the martial arts stage entrance's hourglass had pointed exactly at 7 o'clock. Under such a tight situation, Li Shuer was actually able to sit in the very first row, which was the golden seat nearest to the tournament grounds. It was obvious to see how high the position of an armament master was in Celestial Light Academy. Upon seeing Huang Yueli, Li Shuer immediately laughed out. "Our new top student has finally arrived. Why did you drag until so late? Could it be that you finally understood how big of a mistake you'd committed and didn't dare to come because you're afraid? Too bad, it's too late. Even if you regret it now, your star currency isn't going to come back. But if you directly admit your loss now, at least you won't be hurt and can go back in one piece. Just that your reputation will definitely be thrown away." Huang Yueli threw one glance at her lips curled up slightly. "I'm afraid I will have to disappoint you. Not only will I not lose, what's more, I will win all the battles. I heard that you had set up several bets that my chances of winning is equal to none. So I'm going to bet 20,000 medium-quality spirit stones that I will win all my matches. I hope by then you'd be able to pay back." A betting rate of 1 to 100 was equal to 200,000 pieces of medium-quality spirit stones. If she were to include the amount that Su Qingyu and gang had added, it was thinkable that Li Shuer would pay dearly today. However, she didn't realize it, and when she heard what Huang Yueli said, she laughed until she could stand up straight. "I've seen people heading for death but never seen someone to go on a speed bullet train like you. Still talking big before you meet your death. And you're actually giving me 20,000 medium-quality spirit stones. Really?" laughed Daimi. She turned back and said, "Sister Mingshuang, since she's in a hurry to look for death, then you'd better quickly head down and grant her wish. You can also listen on." "All right, I'll go and meet her. I want to see just how strong is the new top student." Laughter was heard and the young lady stood up behind Li Shuer was Yi Mingshuang. She looked around 17 to 18 years of age and wasn't particularly pretty, but she had an arrogant look, which obviously displayed her confidence in her own ability. Huang Yueli didn't say anything as she turned around directly and walked towards the center of the martial arts stage battlegrounds. The crowd were completely boiling with excitement. "It's starting soon. It's starting. Finally the battle is going to start. I must open my eyes wide and look carefully. I had bet so many spirit stones. I bet this new top student would at least win one round. Why didn't you bet that she would lose all rounds? Because the odds of losing all rounds is simply too low, which is equivalent to not earning anything at all. I really hope she will buck up, but if she really didn't win a single round, then she would be the #1 biggest joker among the new students of Celestial Light Academy's history." The two of them stood face to face against each other. Yi Mingshuang drew out a long sword from her back and touched it in a loving manner. After that she looked towards Huang Yueli and spoke arrogantly. "To be honest, when I just entered Celestial Light Academy, I had also thought that my ability was much higher than the senior students, but reality had taught me what is to know your own limit. Today I'll be the one to teach you this lesson. I'll let you strike 3 times first." Huang Yueli gave out a PFFFFT as she laughed and said, "I think you haven't learnt your lesson at all." "What?" Yi Mingshuang was stunned. Huang Yueli had already kept her smiles. "Stop all the talking, you're really going to let me strike 3 times? Yi Mingshuang arrogantly raised her chin as she replied, "Nonsense, if you're able to even touch a corner of my clothes within these 3 strikes, I will kneel down and kowtow to you." Huang Yueli raised her brows. "You agreed on this, okay?" Yi Mingshuang sneered, "You really think you can hurt me?" Huang Yueli non-committally smiled as she waved her right hand and drew a circle in the air. The surrounding fire attributed profound energy immediately gathered within her hand and grew into a blazing fire ring. Yi Mingshuang saw that Huang Yueli didn't even draw out her weapon as she sneered coldly, "Who do you think you are? You think you can hurt me when you don't even bring out your profound weapon? Hee hee. Her laughter halted suddenly. Huang Yueli's pointed her right hand towards the front and a strong burst of fire attributed profound energy sprayed out following her fair slender fingers. A fire dragon tore out from the empty space and with striking rays, it shot out towards Yi Mingshuang's chest. Yi Mingshuang didn't expect Huang Yueli to have such terrifying and intense power the moment she struck. The intensity of the fire dragon was so strong that it exceeded her expectations, and her instinct was to retreat. But she seemed to be fixed to the ground, rendering her immovable. A huge boom sound reverberated and Yi Mingshuang was struck on the chest, and her dantian was almost scattered as she flew out and crashed onto the stage boundaries array and bounced back onto the battleground stage once again. These two strikes had made her entire body's bones fell apart as she laid limply onto the ground, totally unable to stand up. Everything happened too quickly. All the students were stunned by this as their mouths opened wide, staring blankly towards the direction of the stage. At that moment, no one was able to react. It was until Yi Mingshuang was unable to get up when the crowd started to cry out in shock. Heavens! What happened earlier? What's wrong with my eyes? That new top student had actually beaten Yi Mingshuang to this state in just one strike? You can also listen on. That's right. How is that possible? I must be seeing things wrongly. Yi Mingshuang is ranked 69 among the core students. How is it possible for her to lose to a new student? Correct, but this. Yi Mingshuang had lost quite quickly, right? I haven't even seen clearly what had happened and she lost. Could it be that the new student used some sinister move and schemed against Yi Mingshuang? The crowd were discussing in low volumes. The gazes towards Huang Yueli were filled with shock, astonishment, and horror. Only 1/10 of the students in Celestial Light Academy were core students. And all 500+ core students were the elite among the elite, and all of them were held in high regards. Yi Mingshuang was ranked 69, so that already clearly explained her ability. Among the ordinary students present, she was already a strong presence whom most had no way to win against. Who knew? This newcomer had only used one move. In between this one move, Yi Mingshuang had already been defeated. Even though most people had already guessed that Huang Yueli's power was extraordinary, to dare to accept so many battle invitations, she definitely had the ability, but no one had expected that she was actually so strong to this extent. In front of her, Yi Mingshuang was akin a defenseless ordinary person, not even able to take one strike. Because of the array's separation, all the students only felt astonished but were not able to feel the actual situation on the stage. Whereas Yi Mingshuang, who was on the stage, not only felt astonishment or surprised, and a deep sense of terror. Earlier during that instant when the fire dragon flew into the sky, the entire stage was vibrating with a strong and overbearing fire attributed profound energy. That overwhelming advantage made her feel that she was up against a 4th or even 5th stage realm top exponent. But the new student in front of her had merely just advanced into 3rd stage realm, and wasn't her cultivation lower than hers? Huang Yueli walked over slowly towards her. Yi Mingshuang heard her footsteps and used her hands to hold up her body. At least standing up would not make her seem overly pathetic. But the moment she tried to hold herself up, she felt a wave of intense pain coming over her entire body. All the bones in her body had apparently been injured in the 2 knocks earlier. Several bones were broken, and her arms especially felt sore and painful, completely unable to use any strength. Huang Yueli walked towards Yi Mingshuang till she was just 2 steps away before she stopped. From Yi Mingshuang's line of vision, she was able to see that Huang Yueli was wearing an exquisite deerskin embroidered ankle boots. Her gaze followed from the boots upwards, but because she was not able to raise her head, no matter how she tried, she could only stop at Huang Yueli's knee and not see her face at all. Huang Yueli's voice was heard coming from the top of Yi Mingshuang's head. "Senior Sister Yi, didn't you say I wasn't able to hurt you within 3 moves? How about now? I remember Senior Sister Yi saying that I don't know my own limits and you will teach me this lesson. So now, who taught who the lesson?" Yi Mingshuang's face flushed a bright shade of red, recalling the bold words that she had said just a few moments ago. Thinking back now, it seemed like a thorough joke. Huang Yueli had thrown all the words she had said right back at her. This was akin to slapping her right on her face. Even though Huang Yueli didn't lift a finger to slap her at all, she could thoroughly feel that her reputation had all been thrown away and it was swollen until she was not able to face anyone anymore. You can also listen on. Yi Mingshuang was feeling both embarrassed and furious, but unfortunately she had to stay in the position as she wasn't able to stand up and could only prostrate onto the ground right before Huang Yueli's feet. She had never for a moment been so humiliated in her entire life. She lowered her head as she couldn't help but wish for a hole to appear right before her so that she could hide into it. She could totally imagine that after today, she would become one of the laughingstock in the entire Celestial Light Academy. At this very moment, Yi Mingshuang had regretted her decision to listen to Li Shui's incitation to help her teach this new student a lesson. She didn't even need this amount of star currency. Moreover, thinking back, she was obviously tricked by Li Shui. This new student was from the same kingdom as Li Shui, and would Li Shui not know her true ability? Yet she didn't tell her beforehand. Isn't this an obvious scheme? Yi Mingshuang had started to grow a deep hatred for Li Shui. Actually, the person she should hate more is Huang Yueli. It was human nature to bully the weak and fear the strong. When she realized the power between them was so huge, she knew that she would never be able to defeat Huang Yueli, so this debt could only be placed onto Li Shui. Yi Mingshuang didn't say a single word and treated herself like a dead person, not making a single move as she laid on the ground, hoping that when Huang Yueli had won, she would leave on her own accord. But who knew that when Huang Yueli saw her not moving, she said, "Senior Sister Yi, you said it earlier, you'll let me take 3 strikes and now, there's 2 more strike." When Yi Mingshuang heard these, her heart thumped hoping that she had heard wrongly. At this moment, she had forgotten about the pain on her body as she raised her head and started at Huang Yueli. What do you intend to do?" Huang Yueli used her especially innocent look as she blinked her eyes and replied, "I didn't intend to do anything. But you said it yourself earlier that you'll let me make 3 strikes, why? Are you not intending to keep your word?" Yi Mingshuang was on the verge of throwing up blood. She had indeed said such things earlier, but the situation now and earlier had changed completely. Earlier she thought she had an advantage, so she said that. But now that she had been defeated and to be defeated in such a humiliating way, not in the least bit apprehensive, Huang Yueli was still biting onto the statement that she had made earlier. Even the Academy's teacher on the tournament stage who was responsible to be the referee frowned slightly. "Miss Bai, Miss Yi has already been defeated and the outcome of the battle is now clear that you're the victor, so let's just stop wasting any more time on her." Huang Yueli replied, "Have I won?" But Senior Sister Yi didn't admit her defeat. "I've read through the martial arts stage battle rules, and as long as no one admits defeat, then silence will mean the competition will continue, isn't it?" When Yi Mingshuang heard that, she hastily cried out, "I admit," but before she could say the word defeat, Huang Yueli had already made a move. Fire attributed profound energy instantly exploded as it caused Yi Mingshuang's body to jerk up into the sky again. "Second strike." Huang Yueli lightly called out. Yi Mingshuang was thrown high up into the air and her body faced upwards as her head banged against the boundary of the array. And once again she was rebounded onto the ground. When Huang Yueli saw this, her eyebrows creased slightly as she mumbled, "What's the situation? This array is rather steady." At this moment, Yi Mingshuang was descending once again and it seemed that she was about to crash onto the ground. Huang Yueli hurriedly struck out against the back of her waist. Third strike. You can also listen on. Yi Mingshuang was totally unable to retaliate against her and she didn't even had a single bit of reaction time as she was struck realistically by that third strike. Her body flew horizontally outwards towards the corner of the tournament stage and crashed heavily. Bang .. Following an intense sound accompanied with some tremors, the boundary of the array beside the stage gave out a wave of blue rays and subsequently lost its effect. Celestial Light Academy's martial arts stage had used this sturdy isolation array for years, and it had actually been broken to smithereens on the spot. Yi Mingshuang's body flew outwards of the area of the tournament stage and flew towards the spectators' seating area. Finally, she crashed heavily onto the first row of the spectators' platform and coincidentally, she had crashed right into Li Shui. Li Shui was stunned from watching the unforeseen events on the tournament stage and hadn't expected that even though she was isolated from a powerful 4th-tier array, such a huge misfortune would come crashing onto her. No one knew if it was so coincidental that when the both of them had knocked against each other, they happened to be facing one another, and as their foreheads knocked against one another with a bam, they had broken each other's head and blood started to flow immediately. Yi Mingxuang's body had several meridians broken and many bones broken, so when she crashed onto Li Shuer, she could no longer take it as she sprayed out a mouthful of blackish blood, spraying it right onto Li Shuer's face. Thereafter, she rolled her eyes and fainted completely. As for Li Shuer, although there wasn't any obvious injuries, but to be knocked onto the head with such a severe crash was also a hard strike, and for a moment, she felt dizzy as she almost fell onto the ground. She had managed to stabilize herself with great difficulty, and before words could come out from her opened mouth, the blackish blood was sprayed from Yi Mingxuang into her mouth. That feeling was extremely disgusting, and it had smoked Li Shuer so much that she fainted. After regaining consciousness, she squatted on one side and started to throw up. All the students present were completely stunned by Huang Yueli's lightning-fast strategy. No one had expected that Huang Yueli would be so vicious. Yi Mingxuang was obviously unable to win in that condition, but she had not shown any mercy and continued to strike. Moreover, the more terrifying thing was that she actually broke the array on the tournament stage. This was simply unbelievable. What exactly was her cultivation level? At this moment, Jiang Tuxin and Ling Wenbin had led Li Moying into the martial arts stage from the rear door. The academy's teachers would sometimes head over and take a look at the battles, but they didn't mingle with the students but had an eagle's eye view seating, isolated from the students' spectator platform. Otherwise, if the principal and vice principal were to show their presence, it would have already caused a stir and the tournament would be prematurely terminated. When they just stepped in, they had coincidentally saw the move where Huang Yueli had broken through the array and were so shocked that their jaws fell onto the ground. What situation is this? She actually managed to break through the isolation array on the tournament stage? What on earth is her cultivation level? Jiang Tuxin nervously glanced at Li Moying, who had not said a word or made any movement. His gaze stopped onto the tournament stage when he entered and showed an expression which seemed to be lost in thought. Jiang Tuxin felt even more apprehensive as he berated his subordinates in a doleful expression. Get Master who is in charge of maintaining the array here. What situation is this? I've said many times that the Academy's arrays are very important and it must be maintained carefully. How can such an accident happen? You can also listen on. Ling Wenbin was not able to figure out what had happened as he was dumbfounded by Huang Yueli's shocking potential. But the moment he heard what Jiang Tuxin said, he finally realized what had happened. That's right, Huang Yueli had advanced into third stage realm in the entrance examinations that day and he had witnessed it personally. How could a third stage realm practitioner possibly break through that array? Celestial Light Academy's arrays were able to resist against the attacks of a fifth stage realm practitioner. It seemed like the array had not been properly maintained and was worn down by years of non-repair as it started to malfunction. When Li Moying heard what they said, he turned his eyes away and casted a glance at Jiang Tuxin. He couldn't help but snickered as he felt it was rather funny. The methods that his little fox had used was so masterfully done that even a 8-stage realm practitioner like Jiang Tuxin was not able to see through it. She's really worthy of being his woman. Mo Yi kept a listening ear by the side and couldn't take it much longer. He was mainly shedding sympathy tears for that innocent array master who. He was very clear that Huang Yueli's accomplishments on arrays was very high and this 4th-tier array right before their eyes were obviously not able to stop her. It was highly possible that Huang Yueli had seen through the flaw of this array and directly found the weakest point in the array. With her exceeding potential which surpassed any ordinary third-stage realm practitioner and her accomplishment in array formations, she was able to pierce through it at one go. Jiang Tuxin was still attempting to explain to Li Moying, young sect master, our academy's management is not usually so messy, so this really is just an accident. An accident? Usually we had kept the array well maintained and it's a wonder why it malfunctioned today. Seeing Principal Jiang's sincere attitude, Mo Yi could only reply on behalf of Li Moying, Principal Jiang, don't be overly anxious. Your contributions towards Celestial Light Academy are all known to my master. The array's breakdown may not necessarily be due to lack of maintenance. It may also be possible that the student on the stage might be too powerful. I'd never expected that this year's top student to be so powerful. To be able to recruit such a talented practitioner, Principal Jiang's contributions is really not small. In Principal Jiang's heart, he simply didn't believe that Huang Yueli was able to break down the array based on her own power. But at this moment he could only acknowledge what Mo Yi was saying so as to shirk his responsibility. I don't deserve your praise, this is all part of my job. Thank you, young sect master, for your understanding. Mo Yi could tell that he didn't believe it but didn't bother to make any further explanations. Secretly in his heart, he gave Huang Yueli a thumbs up. She's really worthy of being their future mistress. No matter where she went, she was able to cause a storm. On the martial arts stage, the crowd present were discussing about how Huang Yueli had defeated Yi Mingshuang with just one strike. But by the time she finished all her 3 strikes and broke through the array, the entire martial arts stage had completely quietened down to the extent that a pin drop could be heard. Everyone had been stunned by her shocking method. Most of them had not thought that the array had malfunctioned or how Huang Yueli was able to see through the floor of the 4th-tier array. All they felt was Yueli had overwhelming power, so strong that no one was comparable, which was why she could achieve this effect. In a moment, most of the people did not even dare to breath loudly. Even the referee teacher was stunned. You actually... He originally wanted to severely berate Huang Yueli for hitting on a person when she was down and out, but when he saw how the array had lost its effect right before his eyes, the berating words which about to come out was swallowed back as his attitude turned much gentler. Miss Bai, you're too rash. Earlier Miss Yi had already intended to admit defeat. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli smiled innocently. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear clearly earlier, and by the time I reacted, I had already struck and was unable to pull back. This explanation left everyone speechless. Did she need to be so fake? It was obvious that when Yi Mingshuang was considering to admit defeat, she snatched the opportunity to strike. Moreover, at the same time of striking her second move, which was still explainable by unable to react in time, she hurriedly followed by her 3rd strike. Recalling back the consequence of the 3rd strike, everyone started to shudder as they turned around to look at the half-dead Yi Mingshuang and Li Shuer, who was affected by the wave, and they all secretly became terrified. Yi Mingshuang could be described as pitiful. Initially she thought that she could bully the top student and instantly gained fame while earning star currency at the same time. She had never expected herself to befall onto such a situation. From her injuries, it wasn't any ordinary external injury at all. To be able to pierce through the isolation array, just how big was the intensity of the crash? Perhaps her entire meridians had already been broken into 17 or 18 pieces. Losing star currency was a small thing, but just by being rash and suffered irrecoverable injury would affect their future cultivation. Huang Yueli's lips curled up slightly when she saw the crowd's looks of dismay. This was exactly the effect that she wanted. The reason why she struck Yi Mingshuang so harshly wasn't without any reason but was entire to appease her anger. In actual act, she had accepted a total of 14 battle invitations, and amongst those were core students who were ranked top 30 and had long surpassed Yi Mingshuang's power. If she had fallen just from one battle, no matter how confident she was of her own ability, but as time passed by, her energy would definitely go on the downhill as well. If she lost her concentration for just a second, an accident may happen and capsize her boat, then it wouldn't be worth it at all. So Huang Yueli had already decided from the start that she would use fast like lightning method to clear up the first few contestants and even severely injuring them. In this case, those who had yet to go on stage would felt terrified and realized that if they lost the battle against her, they might not only lose star currency, but incur some irreversible damage. With such intimidation, the number of contestants who dared to engage in a long battle with her would lessen significantly. Huang Yueli cast a glance towards Yi Mingshuang and said, "Then, now, senior sister Yi is prepared to admit her defeat." When Yi Mingshuang heard the same question again, her entire body started to sweat profusely, showing signs of being terrified. Woo, She wanted to reply and admit defeat immediately, but her mouth was filled with blood, and not knowing how many teeth had dropped, she was totally unable to say out a single word, and she almost cried out due to anxiety. Luckily, the referee teacher saw her situation and was really afraid that she might lost her life, so he hurriedly stepped in and said, "All right, let's consider it as her loss." According to tournament regulations, either the party admits defeat or leaves the tournament stage would be considered as a loss. "She's no longer on the tournament stage now." Huang Yueli just replied with a "Oh, so it's actually like this. So this is considered as senior sister Yi's loss then." Right. Miss Yi had lost. This 100-star currency belongs to you now. Furthermore, you've replaced Miss Yi's ranking, and your ranking in the martial arts stage is not 69. The referee teacher quickly explained. When Huang Yueli heard that the star currency was already banked into her account, she gave a smile. Today looked like it was a day for her to strike it rich. She slowly walked to the center of the stage, and as her sights surveyed the entire place, her voice was heard clearly. "Then, next contender. You can also listen on." Next contender. These 3 words were powerful, resonated throughout. The manner which it was said was as though a sledgehammer had slammed heavily onto everyone's heart. Huang Yueli stood on the stage and maintained the same clothes and posture that she wore when she entered the stage earlier. Even the tone when she spoke was gentle and sweet as usual. However, in other people's ears, the strength in her words was totally different now, because in the entire continent, power determined a person's position and identity. Huang Yueli had already proven her own power, and her existence was way above everyone present. The 10 over people who had sent their battle invitations to Huang Yueli were actually seated on the first row of the viewing platform. Before today, all of them wanted to see from the closest distance on how Huang Yueli had been defeated by them once and again, and the agony that she was in, with all the regrets that she shouldn't have done this in the first place. But at this present moment, they couldn't wait to vanish from the spot immediately. Every single person tried their best to shrink their bodies in the hope that they would become smaller, just smaller by a bit. It would be best if Huang Yueli didn't notice them at all. Most of the contenders' power were not much different from Yi Mingshuang, and some were not even her match. Recalling how Huang Yueli had defeated Yi Mingshuang with that kind of crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood kind of strength, they all felt that they would definitely be defeated. Moreover, they would lose particularly badly. No one was willing to go on stage to battle. But Huang Yueli wasn't going to let them drag on endlessly. She repeated her question indifferently. "Who is the next contender? Please don't waste everyone's time and hurry up on stage. I had accepted 14 battles today, and if everyone were to drag my time, then what time will I be able to end all the battles? I still need to hurry and cultivate." No one dared to respond. Huang Yueli was speechless, and she could only turn towards the referee teacher and inquired, "Teacher, what do you think we should do? Don't tell me that if they don't take up the challenge, then I have to keep waiting here." The referee teacher replied, "If no one takes the initiative to come on stage, then we shall follow according to the battle invitations timing in order." "Wait a moment, referee teacher, let me take up the challenge." Huang Yueli turned back to take a look. The person who spoke was a chubby youth who looked rather round. His facial features had a childish nature, but judging from his breath, his potential wasn't weak at all. He had yet to turn 18 and had already reached 3rd stage realm 6th level. He was considered as a top talent outside Celestial Light Academy. When the audience saw him, they started to get excited again. So it's him, Zhu Jiucheng. He's ranked 27th in the martial arts stage. Among the core students, his presence is extremely powerful. Moreover, he's not even 18 yet. Before he turns 20, he should be able to get into top 10 of the core students' ranking, and by then he will be able to join Celestial Light Sect and officially become an outer disciple. Zhu Jiucheng is one of the contenders who challenged by Ruoli and the strongest one. If anyone were to be able to defeat the new top student, it would be him. Now that he's come on stage to challenge her, this competition should be stiff. Stiff your head. Think about it. That new top student broke through the isolation array. No matter how powerful Zhu Jiucheng is, can he compete with her? He will definitely lose. He really is gutsy. Hasn't he seen what happened to Yi Mingshuang? He should just hurry up and admit his defeat. You can also listen on. The crowd's discussions naturally was heard by Huang Yueli. She looked at Zhu Jiuqing and raised her brows. Why? You want to challenge me? You gotta think carefully. When I strike, sometimes I cannot control my strength, and if I injure you accidentally, then you have to be responsible for the consequences. Zhu Jiuqing squeezed a smile from his chubby face which seemed rather honest and sincere. This. Junior sister Bai, don't be mistaken. Actually, I also know that my power isn't comparable to yours, and I will definitely lose in your hands. I also know that challenging a new student like this is not glamorous, and if it wasn't for the fact that I owe junior sister Li a personal favor, I won't even dabble in such a matter. Right now I'll admit defeat to you, and my 1,000 star currency will belong to you. I only wanted to spar with you to ask for advice, so junior sister, please bestow me your teaching. Huang Yueli was rather surprised, but this Zhu Jiuqing seemed rather sincere as he automatically passed his battle invitation to the referee teacher and admitted defeat on the spot. Her lips hooked upwards and she replied, since that's the case, I'll let you strike 3 times. Senior brother Zhu, please show me your move. Hearing that, the crowd was thrown into chaos instantly. In their eyes, Zhu Jiuqing was a legendary character in the academy and was an extremely powerful exponent. However, he had admitted in front of Huang Yueli that he wasn't her match and even automatically admitted defeat. That wasn't just it. He even said he wanted to spar with her and ask for her to give him advice. Was there a need to lower his stance? After all, no matter how powerful this lass was, she was just a new student. To Zhu Jiuqing, her experience was still very little and was a first-year junior sister. The more ridiculous person was Huang Yueli. Senior brother Zhu had already been so courteous, and when he spoke, he had lowered himself so much. By right, as a junior sister, she should display a humble look. The result was, she had indifferently accepted Zhu Jiuqing's request and even prepared to teach him. Let's treat it as her power was indeed strong. But surely she wouldn't think of becoming Zhu Jiuqing's teacher, right? She really treated other people's politeness for real, even saying to let him strike 3 times. Oh my, this was really, really too arrogant. However, Zhu Jiuqing didn't reveal a frivolous attitude. Instead, he cautiously drew out his weapon, which was a huge sledgehammer. Junior sister, I'm going to strike. Watch carefully. Huang Yueli nodded as her favorable impression towards Zhu Jiuqing grew. Frankly speaking, with her previous life's 9th stage realm cultivation and scope, it was more than enough to teach Zhu Jiuqing and enough to sprout light smoke on his ancestor's grave. Were the teachings from a 9th stage realm practitioner that easily obtainable? Moreover, Huang Yueli's unique strength existed predominantly among the 9th stage realm practitioners. When Zhu Jiuqing finished his sentence, both his arms raised up the huge sledgehammer and pounded towards Huang Yueli's direction. Just from the appearance of the sledgehammer, one could tell that it was a 4th-tier profound armament. It weighted at least 5,000 grams and only Zhu Jiuqing was able to move it around. The minute he struck, the surroundings around the tournament stage started to bustle. Zhu Jiuqing was an earth-attributed practitioner, and when he waved that huge sledgehammer, the actual weight of the profound armament and with earth attributes additional support, that strength, was really not something that an ordinary person could handle. Huang Yueli had easily avoided his attacks and at the same time, observed how he struck. Zhu Jiuqing had such good sight, wasn't arrogant or flustered and could put himself down when necessary. He really was a rough diamond. Huang Yueli had intended to use this chance to soothe him to her side. You can also listen on. Very soon, Zhu Jiuqing's 3 moves were completed. Huang Yueli avoided his 3rd strike and immediately after she struck, a strong profound energy swept out. 4 tilde 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 tilde. Heavens! The minute Huang Yueli struck, the stage reverberated cries of alarm. Everyone knew that Huang Yueli would definitely strike after the 3rd move, but no one had expected her to strike in such a way. That slender, fair little hand clenched into a fist and thrusted out frontwards towards the huge sledgehammer's direction, directly crashing into it. Such a pretty weak hand crashing onto the huge sledgehammer made many people shut their eyes in shock. What was this? Was Huang Yueli this mad? Just basing on the intensity of strength, Zhu Jiuqing was one of the top among the core students, and yet Huang Yueli had bare-fistedly received Zhu Jiuqing's sledgehammer. Wasn't she looking for death? What if she hand was crushed? How horrifying would that be? After all, it was such a pretty little hand. After the cries of alarm, shortly afterwards was the sound of a huge pong. Many of them kept their eyes tightly shut, and after a long moment, they opened their eyes worried that all they saw was a delicate young beauty being pounded to minced meat. The result was, everyone rubbed their eyes in shock as their eyes widened, thinking that they had seen wrongly. The person who flew out was not Huang Yueli but Zhu Jiuqing. As there was no obstruction of the isolation array, Zhu Jiuqing had flew out directly off the stage, and the huge sledgehammer in his hands also flew away. Luckily Huang Yueli intentionally showed mercy, so Zhu Jiuqing wasn't badly battered and didn't suffer any serious injury. The surrounding students were only shocked and not hurt at all. However, this was just too strange. Huang Yueli had gone head-on against Zhu Jiuqing, and he was still holding on to a fourth-tier profound armament. The result was, Zhu Jiuqing was the one who lost. Could it be that that slender, delicate little beauty actually had that powerful strength? The person who was most shocked was Zhu Jiuqing himself. He stared blankly at Huang Yueli's slender little hand, and after he was sent flying, that hand didn't even leave any red mark. The profound skill that you used earlier was earth attributed. But shouldn't you be a fire attributed practitioner? Huang Yueli calmly smiled. Fire attribute is indeed the main attribute which I am cultivating, but I also have a bit of earth attribute innate talent and had learnt several earth attribute profound skills. It's just so coincidental that you belong to the earth attribute, so I've embarrassed myself. Zhu Jiuqing had already thought of Huang Yueli as someone with a high standing, but upon hearing what she said, he almost fainted. This was called a little earth attribute innate talent. He himself had a 5th grade upper earth attribute innate talent, and since Huang Yueli was able to defeat him in one move, could she have a 6th grade earth attribute innate talent? But she had said that her main cultivation was fire attribute. Then how strong was her fire attributed innate talent? Zhu Jiuqing felt that he didn't dare to even think about that. How on heavens would there be this abnormal person with such outstanding innate talent even exist? Huang Yueli continued to explain, actually the strength that I used earlier wasn't as great as yours but was able to defeat you when we met. Can you understand what is the underlying logic? Your strength wasn't as strong as mine? Zhu Jiuqing went into a blank. Huang Yueli nodded. The strength that I used was probably only half of what you used. You can also listen on. Surely it's not possible. Zhu Jiuqing felt that he must have heard wrongly. Normally, if there was a direct collision and to be able to send the opponent flying, the strength used must at least be 2 times of the opponent. But now Huang Yueli was telling him that the strength that she used was not 2 times of his, but in actual fact, it was only half. How could such a thing possibly even happen? Huang Yueli explained, actually the logic is very simple. You're an earth-attributed practitioner, so your natural strength is already very powerful. So you intentionally used the heaviest profound weapon, and while practicing the profound skill, you followed the most ferocious pathway. Although it looks very powerful as though your strength had been used to the max, but in actual fact, strength itself doesn't represent the more stronger the better. Isn't the strong the better? Zhu Jiuqing had a confused expression. Huang Yueli continued, right. There's a saying called achieving the great while doing something little. What it means, if the direction and position of utilizing the strength is right, then only using a very small amount of power would enable you to resist against the strong power. The main point if the control on the power and observation and balance between the opponent's strength. If you're just merely chasing after powerful strength, it's actually going down the wrong path. Hearing that, Zhu Jiuqing seemed to understand as he sunk into deep thoughts. Not only him, Even many other Earth-attributed practitioners on the viewing platform started to think deeply. He took quite a long amount of time to think. Huang Yueli originally didn't want to break his thought, but looking that 1/4 of an hour had passed and Zhu Zhouqing was still thinking, she could only call out, "Senior brother Zhu, actually the profound skill that I used earlier is a method which was suitable for Earth-attributed practitioners to train. If you're interested, you can drop by to look for me and we can discuss further." "Really?" Zhu Zhouqing's eyes shone. "You're willing to teach me that profound skill?" It really wasn't weird that he's so surprised. To most practitioners, the profound skills that they trained was their biggest ace, and normally few people would reveal it, not to mention teach it to others. Sometimes even between masters and disciples, they also need to hide it or tuck it away, but Huang Yueli had secretly hinted to him that she would teach him this extremely high-leveled profound skill. Huang Yueli nodded. Zhu Zhouqing almost fainted with joy as he gladly waddled down the stage. Next one. A short moment of silence again. Just as the referee teacher was prepared to call out the number in order, someone finally stood up. This time it was Hu Jingyaro on stage. Very obviously, when he saw the two battles between Huang Yueli versus Yi Mingshuang and Zhu Zhouqing, he already realized how little he was. So Hu Jingyaro didn't bother with any superfluous words, passed his battle invite to the referee teacher and bowed towards Huang Yueli's direction. "I admit defeat." To escape without a battle was an embarrassing matter. But the minute someone had started, the remaining 10 over people had no more misgivings and went on stage continuously. "I admit defeat. I admit defeat. I admit defeat." Very quickly, all the contenders were on stage and without any exception, all of them expressed their defeat. Since they were destined to be defeated and were going to be embarrassed, they would definitely lose their star currency, so why risk being seriously injured and battle? Huang Yueli was all smiles as she accepted their defeats, as her eyes had already turned into the shape of a crescent. Star currency, oh, star currency. A huge amount of star currency came flying towards her. You can also listen on. This time, after going through the series of battles, she had earned over 10,000 star currency. Not only that, before she started her battles, she had hurriedly placed a bet of 20,000 medium-grade spirit stones that she would win all her battles. This time, another 200,000 medium-grade spirit stones were in her account. This was a huge amount of fortune. In the entire Celestial Light Academy, probably not many people had that much money. Thinking of the bets, Huang Yueli's sight swept towards Li Shuer once again. The banker in charge of this bet seemed to be Li Shuer. She had organized so many betting stations with the intention to view Huang Yueli as a joke, but now? Huang Yueli had managed to win all her battles and she had bet such a huge amount of spirit stones. This was all coming from Li Shuer. As expected, Li Shuer's expression was as ugly as it could be. She had been knocked until her head was bleeding by Yi Mingshuang earlier, and luckily it only looked serious, but in actual fact it was just a slight external injury. After applying emergency first aid to stop the bleeding, her condition had improved. Li Shuer bore with the pain and refused to leave the martial arts stage just to witness with her own eyes on the ending of the competition, because she absolutely refused to believe that Huang Yueli would be able to win all her battle. When she heard Zhu Zhouqing was going on stage, Li Shuer couldn't help but feel happy. After all, this was the strongest person whom she had invited to deal with Huang Yueli among all the others. The result was that fellow actually directly admitted his defeat and even asked Huang Yueli for advice. Li Shuer almost fainted on the spot out of rage. This pighead wasted so much of my efforts trying to get into his good books. He actually couldn't even defeat this wretched lass. All her hopes were dashed by the various scenes afterwards. Everyone who went up on stage said, "I admit defeat." All these were like a knife slicing her heart, making her bloody and painful. Huang Yueli, she actually won all her battles. Won all her battles. How was that possible? Recalling that Huang Yueli had placed a bet of 20,000 medium-grade spirit stones earlier, Li Shuer almost wanted to knock herself to death. 200,000 medium-grade spirit stones. Where was she going to magic it out? Even if you sell her, she wouldn't cost that much money. Huang Yueli saw her ashen face and her discomposed look where her forehead was still stained with blood. Her lips curled into a smile. Senior Sister Li, you're such a good person and simply too generous. You know that I just entered the academy and was in need of money, so you actually gave timely assistance, giving me so many spirit stones. Just 2 words of thank you is not able to express the deep gratitude that I have for you. Huang Yueli's eyes turned watery as though she was deeply moved. This made Li Shuer even more enraged to the point of spitting out blood. You, but 200,000 medium-grade spirit stones is really not a small amount. Moreover, this bet's grade period is only 3 days. Senior Sister Li, you have to prepare properly. If you owe money and not return, it is highly possible that you will be expelled from Celestial Light Academy. Li Shuer knew this very well. To open a betting station in the academy, it must be registered, as if they were not able to cough out the money, the consequences were very severe. The lightest would be to deduct star currency to exchange for the debt. But in severe cases, there were students who were expelled previously. Thinking of this, Li Shuer's eyes blacked out, and before she could even breathe, she had fainted on the ground. In a secret corner of the viewing platform, Li Moying, Jiang Tuxin, and the others had sat there for quite long and had seen all that happened on the tournament stage. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli's shocking performance left Jiang Tuxin dumbstruck, thinking that he definitely had seen an illusion. Isn't this too outrageous? She's just a new student, and yet even Zhu Zhoucheng was defeated by her. If I didn't remember wrongly, she's only 14. Zhu Zhoucheng was already the top 30 core students, and this type of person had a high possibility of joining Celestial Light Sect. Because of that, he had left an impression with the principal. Mo Yi said, "Is there a need to be so shocked? There's always someone better out there, so it can only be said that this Miss Bai is really an outstanding cream of the crop. Moreover, just based on her looks and demeanor, you can tell that she's extraordinary. Her future achievements and fate is unimaginable." Jiang Tuxin didn't expect Mo Yi to give her such a high evaluation. After all, Mo Yi himself had joined Celestial Light Sect since young. His innate talent was extremely outstanding. Adding on to the sect's nurturing, his potential and cultivation when he was 14 was even higher than the current Huang Yueli. He had actually spared no effort in praising this new student. What Jiang Tuxin didn't know was when Mo Yi finished his words, he turned secretly towards Li Moying to steal a glance. Ever since Li Moying had arrived at the viewing platform, his expression was icy and he didn't say a single word while staring at the tournament stage. That cold, aloof look was akin to the stars in the sky, high up and out of reach. Jiang Tuxin and Ling Wenbin were scared stiff when they saw his expression, not daring to speak a single word to him. Only Mo Yi was able to tell that even though Li Moying had an aloof expression, his mood was extremely good. That sharp peach blossom eyes looked more peaceful than ever. Especially after Mo Yi had praised Huang Yueli, Li Moying even casted a glance at him. The glint of smile in his eyes was obvious that he was delighted because the lady that he liked was praised, no different from a young lad experiencing love for the first time. Mo Yi sighed in his heart. Master had really gone deep this time. When Jiang Tuxin heard what Mo Yi said, they also started to praise Huang Yueli with all their might. Li Moying heard those praises for a while, suddenly stood up and said, "Today's not early anymore. Since the tournament had ended, then you can also go prepare a little." Jiang Tuxin went into a blank. "This young sect master, forgive me for my ignorance. I wonder your purpose in coming to Celestial Light Academy is for." Li Moying looked at him and said, "Principal Jiang, please don't be worried. My purpose in this trip is to settle some personal matters only." Personal matters? Jiang Tuxin and Ling Wenbin looked at each other in the eye, both looking confused. Li Moying didn't explain further but put his glance back onto the tournament stage before he suddenly said, "The new top student on the stage. Where is she staying right now?" Jiang Tuxin was at a loss now, but he still replied, "Every first year's top 10 students have their own individual courtyard, and as Bai Ruoli is the new top student, the location that she's staying is the best, not far away from below the spiritual artery. There are mountains on one side and water on the other. The profound qi is also more abundant, which makes it suitable for cultivation. Our academy will always give those outstanding innate talented students. Jiang Tuxin wanted to take this opportunity to exaggerate how effective his management of the academy was, but who knew he had just started and was cut off. Help me arrange a courtyard just beside Bai Ruoli, and additionally help me arrange an identity. Tomorrow onwards, I will stay at Celestial Light Academy for a while, assuming the identity of a student. You can also listen on. Ah! What? Jiang Tuxin was completely stupefied. He really don't understand why this almighty, outstanding young sect master would initiate such a request. Just based on his identity and position, no matter what personal matters he had, he only needed to give his instructions. Which Celestial Light sect member would not do their best to be of service to him? Was it even necessary to come to Celestial Light Academy personally and to stay here using the role of a student? Jiang Tuxin suddenly thought of something. Li Moying had specially requested to stay next to Huang Yueli. Could it be that these two people? This thought had just flashed past, and Jiang Tuxin quickly casted this idea away. He must really be thinking too much. No matter what, young sect master could not possibly take interest in such an ordinary young lass. No matter how good her innate talent was, compared to young sect master, there was still a huge difference. Moreover, Celestial Light sect had this rumor running for years that young sect master and elder Miss Murong were childhood friends and were getting engaged very soon. With such a beautiful and shockingly talented fiancé, young sect master would never take interest in a lass from that small country. Principal Jiang, do you have any more questions? Li Moying's chilly voice was heard. Jiang Tuxin shuddered and immediately retracted his senses. No question, no questions at all. I will follow young sect master's instructions and arrange everything properly. Li Moying nodded and was about to add on. Suddenly his vision swept across the tournament stage and halted for a moment before his expression changed. The surrounding temperature immediately dropped by a few degrees. Young sect master? The few of them went into a blank and followed his line of vision. On the tournament stage, Huang Yueli saw Li Shuer fainted out of exasperation and shrugged her shoulders sympathetically. Since she had already fainted, then there was no meaning in her staying behind. Anyway, Li Shuer could not renege on her debt, so she was preparing to leave. Who knew the minute she turned around, an anguish-implicit voice was heard from her back. Bai Ruoli, stand right there. Huang Yueli's footsteps halted as she turned around. Behind her stood a tall, thin youth, roughly around 20 years old or so. Just looking at his features, he was rather handsome, but his expression was pale and there were dark eye rings underneath his eyes. He looked like he had excessive indulgence in debauchery and didn't seem like a good person. However, from his breathing, his potential was rather extraordinary. He was already at 3rd stage 9 level cultivation, just one step away at the gates of 4th stage realm. Huang Yueli's brows raised as she asked calmly, "Who are you?" The youth raised his chin high and with an arrogant look, he harumphed coldly, "You don't even know who I am." Huang Yueli was speechless and she couldn't be bothered to talk to him as she turned around to leave. "Stand right there. You dare to leave?" Seeing that Huang Yueli didn't bother about him, that youth was infuriated and immediately dashed up to the front of Huang Yueli, blocking her way. Huang Yueli swept him a glance. "Please step aside, a good dog doesn't block one's way." You dare to call me a dog?" It was obvious that the youth was seldom despised by others and he was so angry that he clenched his teeth. "You're really an ignorant, shameless and arrogant lass. No wonder you managed to anger Li Shuer to this state. Don't know you that Shuer is under my protection. Whoever dares to make her unhappy is the same as slapping my face." Huang Yueli blinked her eyes and she started to come around. "Oh. So you're Li Shuer's lover. You can also listen on." "You actually dare to vilify Shuer? Have you taken bear's heart and leopard's gall? You really don't know who I am?" The youth couldn't help but ask once again. Huang Yueli couldn't help but laugh out. I've never seen such narcissism before. Are you a spirit stone or star currency? Do I need to recognize you? Since you yearn to be famous, then report your own name, otherwise quickly get lost. The youth's expression was as ugly as it could be. As one of the top exponents in Celestial Light Academy, this was the first time he was completely despised. At this moment, the viewing platform started to stir. Although Huang Yueli didn't know which chive or garlic this fellow was, but in the eyes of the old students in Celestial Light Academy, this youth's name reverberated like thunder. Isn't that Lei Zichu? Heavens, today's tournament also activated him. Lei Zichu is one of the top exponents who is ranked top 10 in the martial arts stage. All the students who are ranked top 10 in our academy's martial arts stage are all top-rated peerless exponents. As compared to Zhu Joqing, those who are in the top 30s, the difference in abilities is simply too huge. Why did he come here? You don't know about this. I've heard some people saying that Lei Zichu seemed to be chasing Li Shuer. This time round, Li Shuer had suffered great losses from this betting station because she was conned by Ruoli, so Lei Zichu wanted to stand up for Li Shuer. What? The playboy Lei Zichu abused his influence as the young master of Lei family and had ruined so many beautiful and innocent female practitioners. Why would be woo Li Shuer? Li Shuer is after all an armament intern who has a bright future ahead of her. Which practitioner doesn't hope for their own specialized armament master? Moreover, he's just wooing Li Shuer, and never said anything about marrying her to become his wife. Then what's the situations now? Lei Zichu is the top 10 exponents in the martial arts stage. Just based on his ability, after attending the Academy's Great Meet this year, he would probably be able to enter Celestial Light Sec. With such ability and status, will he even go on stage to deal with a new student? This is hard to say. He's bristling with anger over a beauty. This young Master Lei wants to perform well in front of Li Shuer, so there's no guarantee that he wouldn't strike. The crowd's discussions had flowed into Huang Yueli's ears. She showed an enlightened look and said, I really can't tell that you're one of the top 10 in martial arts stage. When Lei Zichu heard this, he held out his chest and his expression turned even more aloof. That's right, I'm Lei Zichu, cultivation at 3rd stage realm 9th level. Martial arts stage ranking, number 8. When he spoke, his arms were crossed over his chest and his pair of eyes were casting sidelong glances at Huang Yueli, waiting to see her shocked expression. What concept was martial arts stage ranking number 8? Lei Zichu believed that all the students in Celestial Light Academy would know. In the past, whenever he called out his own name, other than those whose ranking were higher than him, the others were all shocked and scared, treating him with respect carefully. Who knew when Huang Yueli heard this? She only replied indifferently with a "oh" and Light replied, just number 8? Although the ranking is slightly low, but you need not to feel too inferior. Not everyone under the world can be number 1. Surely there would be several low-ranking ones to serve as a background accompanist in order to bring out the top people with greater brilliance. Lei Zichu went into a blank and following that, his expression turned green. Inferior? Was she blind? Which eye did she see him as inferior? And to say that a young Master Lei like him was just a low-ranking accompanist in the background? You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.